Chapter 680. The Sunless Beast was just a monster formed from Bai An's evil aura, while Qiongqi was one of the four ancient beasts. Like Bai An, comparing the Sunless Beast to Qiongqi was like comparing heaven and earth. Moreover, Qiongqi's intelligence was undoubtedly much higher than the Sunless Beast's. At first, it didn't know why Li Xingfei and the others came in, but after Su Yunxing and Li Xingfei and the others hunted some of them and took the golden rings, these fierce beasts immediately realized what was going on. Fuck, this bunch of immoral people from the celestial sect of wonders actually used them as prey for their disciples to gain experience. The golden rings that had been buried in their bodies earlier were the foreshadowing for today. Let's see who will hunt who. After realizing what was going on, the Qiongqi immediately began to move in groups. In order to increase the difficulty, Lin Feng and the others forbade Li Xingfei and the others to communicate with each other using sound transmission, but allowed Qiongqi to communicate with each other. In addition, the participating cultivators entered this small world one after another, and the landing spots were randomly scattered. Therefore, for a moment, the human cultivators were surrounded by a large number of Qiongqi. Some cultivators were besieged by many Qiongqi alone in this situation and received fatal attacks, triggering the restriction of the Hall of Spreading Law. In the end, they were eliminated and left the exchange. The spectators' hearts gradually tightened. At this moment, they realized that the second stage's elimination rate was greatly increased, and only the top 8 were allowed to advance to the third stage. In fact, a large part of the reason was that the second stage was much more difficult than the first stage. Li Xingfei was now being besieged by 5 Qiongqi beasts. She manipulated the true water of Yellow Spring to deal with the Qiongqi beasts. The true water of Yellow Spring was not afraid of the Qiongqi beasts' innate magical power, which made it easier for Li Xingfei to deal with the Qiongqi beasts than other cultivators. However, the difficulty was still not small, especially when Li Xingfei had to be careful of the abyss under the cliff. The violent thunder and fire that gushed out from there could even burn a cultivator of the golden elixir period to ashes in an instant. Li Xingfei calmly dealt with Qiongqi. She performed one of the 8 laws of heaven and earth. Streams of dark nether true water interweaved into a net in front of her, blocking Qiongqi's ink-like demonic power. However, the 5 Qiongqi attacked together and surrounded her. Her defeat was imminent. It's a pity that I can't get any of the 5 golden rings. Li Xingfei was in danger, but she remained calm and did not panic. Instead, she shook her head in pity. Qiongqi's nature was ferocious and ferocious. It was not easy to kill him, let alone capture him alive. However, Li Xingfei made a prompt decision. She clasped her palms together, and the power of Wang Lin's Myriad Heavens Dao scripture began to circulate rapidly. The violent and devastating aura of magic power spread out, as if it was the end of the world. The nether true water surrounded Li Xingfei, and like an erupting fountain, it spread out in all directions, destroying everything that dared to stand in its way. Even a ferocious beast like Qiongqi felt their heart palpitate, as if they were facing a terrifying catastrophe. Xianmen Tianzong's divine art, the last art of the 8 laws of heaven and earth, destruction of heaven and earth. Li Xingfei's violent magic power spread out, and the huge cliff under her feet was completely smashed into powder. The Qiongqi were all shocked, and they followed Li Xingfei and fell into the abyss of thunder and fire. It's not that easy to perish together. The 5 Qiongqi flapped their wings and flew up. Li Xingfei looked at them, and her lips curled into a smile. Perish together? Who would perish together with you? Her hands kept changing hand signs, and waves of magic power flew out, entangling the 5 Qiongqi above her head. Before the Qiongqi could react, one of the 8 laws of heaven and earth's divine art, overturning of heaven and earth, had already taken effect. The heaven and earth seemed to have flipped in an instant. The Qiongqi that was originally above fell to the bottom, and the Li Xingfei that was originally below moved to the top of Qiongqi's head. Li Xingfei's hands did not stop moving, and she activated her magic power. Another skyward warp, and the nether true water intertwined, turning into a huge net that covered the Qiongqi's head. Then, an even more violent destruction of heaven and earth technique crashed down on the Qiongqi's head. The true disciples of the celestial sect of Xianmen, who had been eliminated in the competition, were also watching the process of the spell assembly in the VIP room of the Spreading Spell Hall. Seeing this scene, Sun Xuan's mouth opened wide. Senior Sister Li is so powerful. The other Xianmen Tianzong true disciples beside her nodded in unison. As the last of the 8 laws of heaven and earth, the destruction of heaven and earth technique was extremely powerful. It was the last trump card of most Xianmen Tianzong disciples, but it also consumed a lot of magic power. This technique was derived from the Hong formula of Shi Tianhao's black and yellow forward formula, and Yang Qing's Tine Mountain Flood incantation. It needed to explode the cultivator's magic power. Normally, when an ordinary disciple used the destruction of heaven and earth technique, they would run out of magic power. But now, not only did Li Xingfei use 2 destruction of heaven and earth techniques consecutively, but she also added overturning of heaven and earth and skyward warp in the middle, which almost went against the common sense of the Xianmen Tianzong disciples. Usually, when the 5 Qiongqi joined forces, Li Xingfei's skyward warp could not trap them. They could escape in all directions and escape from the net of netherworld real water. But when Li Xingfei used the 4 techniques consecutively, there was no gap. When the terrifying power of the destruction of heaven and earth technique came down, even the 5 Qiongqi had to be careful to deal with it. They had no spare energy to use skyward warp. Not to mention that the abyss thunder fire burst out from below, which made them even more distracted. In this way, not only could they not escape, but they were also pushed down by Li Xingfei. They were about to fall into the abyss. The 5 Qiongqi roared angrily, but only showed the despair of being at the end of the road. But at this moment, a gloomy voice suddenly sounded above Li Xingfei's head. "Hey, isn't this Xianmen Tianzong's disciple?" Li Xingfei frowned and looked up. She saw a plump young man staring at her with a pair of small, sinister eyes. It was Yang Likuan, the disciple of the reincarnation sect's heavenly Tao. The fat on his cheeks jiggled. "You ruined my plan. You didn't expect this, did you?" As he spoke, Yang Likuan smiled cruelly and made a hand seal. A red flame that looked like a lotus appeared in front of him and turned into red lotuses. The lotuses fell from the sky and floated towards Li Xingfei. Li Xingfei's expression changed slightly. She had used the destruction of heaven and earth technique several times in a row. Even though she had a lot of resources, her arcane energy was running low. She could not suppress the 5 Qiongqi and deal with Yang Likuan at the same time. Left with no choice, Li Xingfei dodged to the side and avoided Yang Likuan's red lotus fire of karma. Li Xingfei could resist other techniques, but not the red lotus fire of karma. The red lotus fire of karma was a sure kill technique. It was fine if it did not touch the body, but once it did, it would burn the soul of the cultivator in an instant. Li Xingfei had to use her yellow spring water to suppress the Qiongqi, so she could not protect herself. She could only dodge the red lotus fire of karma. However, the Qiongqi below her were enraged. They almost fell into the abyss and were burned by the lightning fire. They were in great pain and roared, "Xianmen Tianzong's disciples, all of you deserve to die." As they roared, the 5 Qiongqi gave up on defending against the lightning fire and used all their demon energy to attack Li Xingfei. Above them, Yang Likuan did not hold back. He put his palms together and the red lotuses turned into a sea of fire. Then the fire hit Li Xingfei like a storm. The heaven and earth overturning technique of the 8 laws of heaven and earth had a limited range. The red lotus fire of karma covered an area of more than 100 meters, so Li Xingfei could not change her position even if she wanted to. Inside the Hall of Spreading Law and the Hall on the Cloud Peak, the Xianmen Tianzong's disciples cursed. "How dare you join hands with the Qiongqi? Can you be any more shameless?" Li Xingfei took a deep breath and stared coldly at Yang Likuan with a gloomy expression. Yang Likuan laughed and said, "It feels good to break the undefeated legend of Xianmen Tianzong." As he spoke, his expression suddenly changed. He looked down and saw that Li Xingfei did not care about the Qiongqi's attack and the lightning fire from the abyss. The purple-clothed girl stared coldly at Yang Likuan and suddenly pointed her right index finger at him. Extreme underworld finger. An extremely dark black line shot straight at Yang Likuan. It cut through the red lotus fire of karma, like a knife cutting through tofu, and went straight for Yang Likuan. Yang Likuan let out a scream. In the nick of time, he moved his body to the side and narrowly avoided the black line, but it still pierced through his shoulder. You. Yang Likuan gritted his teeth and stared at Li Xingfei. Li Xingfei's last attack had wounded Yang Likuan, but she was also hit by the Qiongqi's demon energy and lightning fire. She spat out a mouthful of blood, and her face turned pale. A few Qiongqi roared and wanted to tear Li Xingfei apart, but it was too late. The lightning fire from the abyss exploded and swallowed them all. The heavily injured Li Xingfei also fell down. Just as she was about to follow in the footsteps of the Qiongqi, a figure suddenly flashed by and used the escape art of Xianmen Tianzong's 8 great laws of heaven and earth to catch Li Xingfei's body. They flew out of the abyss and landed on the edge of the abyss. Li Xingfei looked up and saw a cold and indifferent face. It was a person she had heard of for a long time, but she did not have much contact with. The only true disciple of Xianmen Tianzong's Nirvana Wonderland, Zhou Yinsong. Zhou Yinsong put Li Xingfei down. Li Xingfei coughed lightly and spat out another mouthful of blood. Her injuries were too serious. Glancing at Li Xingfei, Zhou Yinsong suddenly turned around and stared at Yang Likuan coldly. Yang Likuan was currently suppressing the injuries caused by Li Xingfei. Seeing Zhou Yinsong looking at him, he sneered and said, "Your group actually managed to get into the top 8 and participate in the second stage? I don't know what kind of dogshit luck you have, or you really have some skills. But that's not important. 1 is a fight, 2 is also a fight." While talking, Yang Likuan suddenly pointed his finger at the center of his eyebrows. A bright light flashed above his head, and a huge spirit formation rune floated in the air, releasing streams of white light that enveloped him. Chapter 681. In the All Heavens Hall, Shen Qifeng's expression was calm as he sighed. "My disciple is mischievous." He actually joined hands with Qiongqi to attack Xianmen Tianzong's disciple. Such behavior has crossed the line too much. I am ashamed for not being a good disciple. Your sect can directly eliminate my disciple. This is the punishment he deserves. After I bring him back to the mountain, there will be more punishments. Wang Lin remained silent with a cold expression. His white hair fluttered behind him as he stared straight at Shen Qifeng. The group of primordial spirit experts in the hall looked at him and thought, although he is only in the middle stage of yuanying, his murderous nature is really strong. On the main seat, Lin Feng was calm. He lightly tapped his finger on the armrest of the seat. Immediately, everyone looked at Lin Feng. "There is no need for that," Lin Feng said calmly. "The second stage is to test the young people's ability to adapt independently. Since it is a test, then all kinds of situations can happen. It is part of the test to deal with unexpected situations." The group of primordial spirit experts nodded. "The Master of Celestial Gate is magnanimous." That being said, the second stage of the spell assembly allowed cultivators to fight each other for the golden rings. However, although it was not explicitly forbidden to join hands with Qiongqi to attack other cultivators, the other participants of the spell assembly had a tacit understanding not to do so. Lin Daohan said, "The Master of Celestial Gate is magnanimous. However, Dao Lord Tian Tan's disciples' actions are still inappropriate." "It's okay." Lin Feng smiled faintly and looked at Shen Qifeng. "Your disciple can continue to participate in the spell assembly until he is eliminated. If he passes the test and becomes the winner, he will receive all the rewards he deserves. I, Xianmen Tianzong, will not disqualify him." Shen Qifeng was not happy when he heard that. Instead, he was silent for a while and slowly nodded. "Thank you, Master of Celestial Gate." He turned to look at the illusion of light and shadow and sighed. Inside the spreading law hall, Yang Likuan looked at Zhou Yinsong and Li Xingfei with a slightly ferocious expression. He wanted to suppress the injuries caused by Li Xingfei, but found that it was not so easy. The Yellow Springs water wrapped in the Yellow Springs water kept destroying his vitality and magic power. Even Yang Likuan, who was proficient in the reincarnation sect's secret techniques, had a headache. The Extreme Yellow Springs Finger was a powerful offensive spell that Wang Lin created after he created his own Mortal Forest Residence Dao technique, the Extreme Heaven's True Scripture. Although it was not as powerful as the Extreme Yellow Springs Finger that Wang Lin had comprehended from the 8 trigrams Great Dao Scripture, it was still very powerful. It was even stronger than the Yellow Springs Finger Divine Art, that was derived from the Yellow Springs Nirvana technique. The extreme Yellow Springs finger could be considered a simplified version of the universal Yellow Springs finger's Nirvana finger. Although it could not pass through the void and create a space of death to kill the opponent, it could fuse the chi of death with the Yellow Springs true water. Its destructive power was astonishing, and the power was concentrated at a single point. Once the enemy was injured by the extreme Yellow Springs finger, they would be killed by the powerful chi of death and the Yellow Springs water, even if it did not hit a vital point. Young Likuan was in such a situation. After being hit by Li Xingfei's finger, he was in the same state as Li Xingfei and lost the ability to fight. However, he was still a rising star among the younger generation of the reincarnation sect's heavenly Tao. He was well versed in many secret techniques of the reincarnation sect. He pointed a finger at the space between his eyebrows. Spiritual light flashed above his head, and a huge spiritual rune appeared in the sky. The secret technique of the reincarnation sect, the Great Curse of 9 Deaths. Even though cultivators in the Golden Elixir period had their cultivation suppressed, they still had an advantage when competing with Foundation establishment cultivators. It was not just a matter of experience. Many secret techniques and techniques that couldn't be mastered in the Foundation establishment stage could be learned after advancing to the Golden Elixir period. Even though his cultivation was suppressed to the Foundation establishment stage, he could use many profound techniques as long as he had enough magic power. The great spell of 9 Death Reincarnation was one of the most powerful spells of the reincarnation sect. Under the illumination of the white light, young Likuan's injuries healed rapidly. The rampaging chi of death in his body was completely eliminated, and the true water of the netherworld was also suppressed. Young Likuan's face was abnormally red. He stared at Zhou Yunsong and Li Xingfei and laughed. "It's not long, but it's enough to finish you too." Inside the All-Heaven Palace, the Peach Blossom Fairy Yilongbing, a nascent soul cultivator of the reincarnation sect, said slowly, "The Great Curse of 9 Deaths, the Great Curse of 9 Deaths." This technique was a secret technique of the reincarnation sect. However, after the 6 paths of reincarnation split, only the heavenly path cultivators of the reincarnation sect knew how to use it. It was a life-saving technique for the reincarnation sect cultivators. As long as the user wasn't dead, once the technique was activated, even the most serious injuries could be healed quickly. Even the user's magic power would be restored to its peak, but it could only be maintained for a certain period of time. After a certain period of time, the user would fall into a state of certain death. There were only 2 ways to save the user. One was to consume the reincarnation sect's secret medicine, the elixir of life. The other was to have a higher cultivation level in the sect treat the user. Either way, the cultivator would be in a weak state for a long period of time, even if they could survive. The purpose of this technique was to help the reincarnation sect cultivators get out of a dangerous situation. They could either kill the enemy or have the strength to escape. Yang Qing stared at young Likuan in the light and shadow illusion for a while, then turned to look at Lin Feng. When Lin Feng saw him looking at him, he smiled and didn't say anything. Seeing this, Yang Qing looked at Zhou Yunsong and called out, "Yunsong?" The Dharma restriction spell of Hongfa Hall had been modified. If Shen Qifeng and the others wanted to use Dharma voice transmission, they had to get permission from Lin Feng. However, if Xiao Yan Yang Qing and the others wanted to use Dharma voice transmission, they could enter unimpeded. When Zhou Yunsong heard Yang Qing's voice, he tilted his head slightly. Yang Qing said calmly, "In this battle, I allow you to use the Burning Sun Vitality Shattering technique." Hearing Yang Qing's words, Zhou Yunsong's breath paused for a moment, then returned to normal. However, his gaze toward young Likuan became even colder. Yang Qing didn't hide his words from the others. The group of Essence Soul Realm cultivators looked at him curiously. The bad feeling in Shen Qifeng's heart grew stronger. In the next moment, Zhou Yunsong suddenly moved. A dazzling golden light erupted from his body, making him look like he had turned into a golden sun. He pounced toward young Likuan. "True sunfire?" Young Likuan laughed sinisterly and clapped his palms. The red lotus karmic fire scattered and flew toward Zhou Yunsong without hesitation. But in the next moment, young Likuan's chubby face began to twitch. He suddenly discovered that the golden sun true fire around Zhou Yunsong in front of him had suddenly been completely annihilated, disappearing without a trace, replaced by black smoke. It was as if the blazing sun in the sky had suddenly fallen into a solar eclipse. It was dark and ferocious. What caused Yang Likuan's heart to race was that the black smoke around Zhou Yunsong was growing thicker and thicker. In the end, it was as black as ink, and the originally smoke-like gas was gradually condensing into a stream of black light. In the All-Heaven Great Hall, the group of Essence Soul Realm cultivators' gazes moved slightly. The black smoke earlier was the burning sun chi that was produced after Zhou Yunsong's true sunfire was completely incinerated. Its destructive power was shocking. However, the black light now was a further transformation of the burning sun chi. Burning sun vitality destruction chi. Zhou Yunsong waved his hand casually. Where the black light passed, Yang Likuan's red lotus karmic fire immediately vanished into thin air. The dark red fire lotuses were like fallen flowers that were blown away by the wind and rain. They instantly withered and turned into dust. Yang Likuan's fat face was filled with horror. He was anxious and angry. What did you do? Fatty's small eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He was shocked to find that Zhou Yunsong's burning sun vitality destruction chi not only destroyed the red lotus karmic fire that he released, but it also damaged his origin the moment it came into contact with the red lotus karmic fire. The red lotus karmic fire that was destroyed was truly annihilated, completely destroyed. The amount of red lotus karmic fire that Yang Likuan had painstakingly refined was also lost. Years of hard work had been wasted by Zhou Yunsong in a single day. When the blazing Yang Yuan Qi shattering Yang Likuan's red lotus karmic fire was completely incinerated, Yang Likuan's lips trembled and he couldn't speak. The red lotus karmic fire divine art that he had painstakingly cultivated was actually crippled by Zhou Yunsong. From now on, if Yang Likuan didn't die, he would have to start from scratch if he wanted to control the red lotus karmic fire again. He had painstakingly cultivated for so many years, and now he was back to square one. How is this possible? Yang Likuan's entire body trembled. He couldn't understand how Zhou Yunsong's burning sun vitality destruction chi could be so domineering that it could completely destroy his supernatural power by burning away his external red lotus karmic fire. What was even more terrifying was that Zhou Yunsong didn't stop. After destroying Yang Likuan's red lotus karmic fire, he was already close to him. He stretched out his right hand, and as the black light flowed, he grabbed Yang Likuan's fat neck and lifted him into the air. The terrifying burning sun vitality destruction chi was activated. Yang Likuan instantly felt as if his internal organs were on fire. His supernatural power was being incinerated by the black light. Stop! Yang Likuan screamed. He suddenly realized that not only was his supernatural power being destroyed by the black light, but his yang qi was also being incinerated by the burning sun vitality destruction qi. With the yang qi dissipated, the balance between yin and yang in the human body was completely destroyed. Not only would Yang Likuan's cultivation be destroyed, but the strength of his divine soul would also weaken. His meridians would wither, and the blood in his body would deteriorate. His connection with the Tao of heaven and earth would also be blocked, and so on and so forth. When that time came, it would be extremely difficult for him to cultivate again. He was considered a talented person in the reincarnation sect, but after the effects of the burning sun vitality destruction chi, his innate talent was equivalent to being half-crippled. Yang Likuan's heart trembled. He looked at Zhou Yunsong in fear, and he suddenly felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. The black light enveloped Zhou Yunsong's body. Only his eyes could be clearly seen in the pitch-black light. Yang Likuan shuddered. What kind of eyes were those? A pair of eyes that were as cold and gloomy as the clouds of calamity descended from the sky, but also seemed to be burning with a monstrous fire. What kind of demon did I provoke? This guy isn't human. He's like a beast that just got out of its cage. At this moment of life and death, Yang Likuan unleashed all of his potential. He shouted, "Reincarnation of all living beings, the heavenly Tao is immortal." His entire body suddenly emitted an immortal and indestructible aura. All of his remaining spiritual power and spiritual chi exploded, and even his divine soul seemed to be ignited. He gathered all of his cultivation and turned it into a divine light to protect himself. Chapter 682. In the small world, there was an abyss where thunder and fire were constantly erupting. At the edge of the abyss, a colorful light pillar shot up into the sky. Reincarnation sect's secret technique, the immortal divine light of the heavenly Tao. The immortal divine light of the heavenly Tao was one of the top techniques in the entire reincarnation sect. It contained the concept of watching all living beings enter the cycle of reincarnation and being immortal and limitless. But at this moment, this resplendent light was being suppressed by the masses of black light and was constantly being whittled away. Zhou Yunsong's blazing sun energy shattering was extremely tyrannical, madly burning everything in front of it. Even a great divine ability like the immortal heavenly divine light was constantly being pushed back. Furthermore, just like the powerful karmic fire of the Red Lotus, young Likuan could clearly feel that the foundation of his immortal divine light of the heavenly Tao was on the verge of collapse. If it continued to develop, this technique would also be destroyed by the burning sunbreak. In the Great Law Hall, all the cultivators watching the battle held their breaths. Even the Yuanying stage patriarchs looked at Zhou Yunsong with solemn expressions. Right now, Zhou Yunsong, who was in the foundation establishment stage, was still powerless to threaten them. Although the burning sun-shattering energy was peerlessly ferocious, it still had its limits, and it increased along with Zhou Yunsong's cultivation. However, what would happen when Zhou Yunsong formed his gold core, or even formed his nascent soul? Just thinking about it made many people's scalps tingle. In the All-Heaven Hall, the group of primordial spirit realm experts also watched this scene with interest. Venerable Sword Emerald Wave turned to Lei Lai, the head of the Lei family. Cultivators who mainly cultivate Yangqi will most likely die if they encounter Zhou Yunsong at the same cultivation realm. Slowly Lei Lai nodded. Burning sunbreak Tao, breaking the primordial shattering void. It is indeed overbearing and vicious. Yen Mingyue turned to Lin Daohan and smiled. When we go back, we must tell Marshal Uncle Kuang and the others that Run Feng is only one cultivation realm higher than Zhou Yunsong. We must not have any conflict with him. Among the young cultivators cultivated by the radical faction of the Taishu Temple, there was a man named Ding Runfeng. He had even fought with Yu Hongyan, Li Yuanfang, Luo Qinggu and other disciples of Xianmen Tianzong in West Hill City with Bai Shiqian. This man was born with a pure yang body, and cultivated the pure yang profound heart technique. It complemented each other, and allowed him to develop his advantages to the maximum. His magical power were far beyond that of ordinary cultivators. Even in a place like the Taishu Temple where geniuses gathered, he was still one of the best in the same cultivation realm. Unfortunately, Zhou Yunsong's burning sun body and burning sun break primordial qi were his nemesis. At the same cultivation realm, it would be easier for Zhou Yunsong to fight against Ding Runfeng than for him to fight against Yang Likuan. Lin Daohan said lightly, after West Hill City, Junior Marshal Brother Ding has also matured a lot. Yen Mingyue smiled. Then, she turned to look at Yang Qing in Xianmen Tianzong's camp. She stopped smiling and said seriously, "Fellow Yang is indeed a good teacher. Under your guidance, this young friend Zhou Yunsong has perfectly dug out his innate advantages without any waste." Yang Qing cupped one hand in the other before his chest. "Fairy Yen, you flatter me. Yunsong can become what he is today, because of his hard work. I don't dare to take credit for it." While everyone was talking, in the small world, Zhou Yunsong's burning sun-break primordial qi was almost burning Yang Likuan's divine light of the heavenly path. Under the protection of the divine light of the heavenly path, Yang Likuan could finally breathe a sigh of relief. But seeing that the divine light was about to break and misfortune was approaching, Yang Likuan had a feeling of sitting and waiting for death. A struggling expression appeared on his fat face. After a little hesitation, he seemed to have made up his mind. A vicious light flashed in his small eyes. "You actually want to completely destroy me? How can I let you do that?" Yang Likuan shouted in a low voice. "I want to thank your Xianmen Heavenly Sect's Great Law Hall's magic power defense. At first, I felt that I couldn't really kill people. It was really not good, but now it just happened to help me." Brat, this isn't over. Don't let me see you after we leave Kunlun Mountain. Otherwise, when I recover my cultivation during my golden elixir period, I'll definitely make you wish you were dead. After saying that, Yang Likuan directly flipped his palm and wrapped it with magic power. He smashed it toward the top of his own head. He actually wanted to end his own life, and used this to trigger the defensive restriction of Hongfa Hall. Then he would be judged to be out of the game, and sent out of this small world. Thus he would be interrupted by Zhou Yunsong's burning sunbreak primordial qi destroying his magic power. Yang Likuan was ruthless to others, but he was also ruthless to himself. Not to mention being eliminated from the game, and being eliminated by the Dharma Assembly, it still required a lot of determination and courage to kill himself. Even if he knew that there was a protective restriction of magic power. Zhou Yunsong noticed Yang Likuan's actions, and the light in his eyes became even colder. His right hand grabbed Yang Likuan, and his left hand made a fist in the air. Endless black light quickly condensed in his left hand, and turned into a huge black ball of light. That black ball of light continued to compress and condense the tyrannical power of the burning sunbreak primordial qi. It faintly produced a terrifying feeling that it was about to explode, as if a star was about to collapse. Burning sunbreak primordial qi. Eternal young heavenly explosion. Yang Likuan's eyes widened, and he looked at this scene in horror. In front of this opponent, don't talk about survival. Could it be that even if he wanted to die, it was not up to him? The terrifying black ball of light bombarded the immortal heavenly light that was already on the verge of collapse, and directly shattered the light pillar. Endless black light exploded and scattered, bombarding Yang Likuan's body. One after another, the burning sunbreak primordial qi detonated all the yang qi in Yang Likuan's body. Yang Likuan let out a blood-curdling scream. The palm that he had just raised was suddenly unable to condense any magic power. It was all burned by the burning sunbreak primordial qi. Zhou Yunsong's last attack, while burning the yang qi and magic power around Yang Likuan's body, it also triggered the restriction of Hongfa Hall's magic power. It saved Yang Likuan's little life, but his cultivation was almost completely destroyed. The Hongfa Hall was silent for a long time. Then, as if a pot of boiling water, the cultivators of various forces were discussing spiritedly. This Zhou Yunsong's cultivation is very high, and his method is very ruthless. Xianmen Tianzong and the other disciples cheered in unison. Beautiful. To deal with such a vicious and ruthless person, one should give him a taste of his own medicine. The true disciples looked at each other and said, I didn't know that junior brother Zhou was actually so strong. This is really a case of shocking the world with a single brilliant feat. Compared to the bustling Hongfa Hall and the central hall of the Cloud Peak, the All Heaven's Great Hall was much calmer. Shen Qifeng calmly looked at the light and shadow illusion. After a long time he sighed and said, This is also fate. The atmosphere in the All Heaven's Great Hall was a bit strange. Lin Daohan and the others looked at Lin Feng, but Lin Feng calmly looked at Shen Qifeng and thought, This is the result you want to see? Lin Feng laughed in his heart. Interesting. I find it more and more interesting. Yang Likuan's life was saved by the Hongfa Hall, but his cultivation was destroyed. The golden elixir was dark and withered. It was covered with dense cracks like a spider web. Without the Hongfa Hall suppressing his cultivation, if he could use his golden elixir, there was a possibility that he could create magic power again. But Zhou Yunsong's attack not only destroyed his magic power and golden elixir, but also destroyed the yang qi in his body. The balance of yin and yang completely collapsed. He could not even use the golden elixir. The reincarnation sect's direct disciple of the heavenly Tao, a rising star, was almost completely destroyed. There was little hope for him to recover. This was also the biggest evil incident since the beginning of the assembly. The consequences were more serious than Yang Likuan's karmic fire of the Red Lotus to torture Lu Hang. Because of Li Xingfei's interference, Lu Hang's spirit was seriously damaged, but there was a possibility of recovery. Yang Likuan was worse off than him. The atmosphere in the All Heaven's Great Hall was a bit strange. Normally, Xianmen Tianzong held this assembly to exchange pointers, so the atmosphere was generally friendly. Such evil incidents were generally prohibited. But as the victim, Dao Master Tian Tan, Shin Qifeng, did not intend to pursue the matter. Although Yang Likuan had brought this upon himself, Shin Qifeng's calm performance was still unexpected. After all, Yang Likuan was his direct disciple. The reincarnation sect, especially the heavenly Tao of the reincarnation sect, had always been extremely protective and domineering. Most of the time, they did not even give face to the Taishu Temple and the Mount Shu Sword sect. They did not necessarily have to do anything to Zhou Yunsong, but after causing such a big incident, disqualifying him from participating in the assembly was the minimum punishment. What made the other big shots even more surprised was that Xianmen Tianzong also maintained silence, as if nothing had happened. They had an attitude of not pursuing the matter, unless the people complained. Yan Mingyue's gaze moved between Lin Feng and Shin Qifeng. Looking at the deeds of the Xian Gate's master Lin Feng since his debut, even though he is overbearing and protective of his own, and has a tough style of doing things, but he rarely makes trouble for no reason. Apart from the Battle of Kunlun Mountain where he was not honorable when plotting the exchange between the Golden Crow Great Sage and the Wind God sect, his actions at other times are still justifiable. His actions this time are a little confusing. Yan Mingyue looked at Lin Feng and Shin Qifeng. There seems to be some kind of tacit understanding between the two of them. As Yan Mingyue thought about it, she turned to look at her senior brother, Lin Daohan. She saw that Lin Daohan's eyes were shining, which was rare. Eldest senior brother? Yan Mingyue was slightly stunned. Lin Daohan noticed her gaze and turned back. Silently, he used his transcendence energy to transmit his voice. There may be big changes in the reincarnation sect in a short period of time. Be careful. Yan Mingyue pondered over Lin Daohan's words and slowly nodded. At this time, Lin Feng's attention once again fell on the illusion of light and shadow. There, on a hill far away from the abyss where Zhou Yunsong and Yang Likuan had fought, stood a black-robed youth. He was looking from afar, and had also watched the entire battle. It was Chu Yang. What a powerful and incisive divine power. Xianmen Tianzong is indeed a place of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. There are talents in every generation. Chu Yang nodded and praised. However, this divine power should have its shortcomings. It's a pity that the fatty from the reincarnation sect was defeated too quickly. I couldn't see anything else, other than the limited range of the attack, and the need to get close to the opponent. I don't know if there are any other flaws with the black light divine power. Chu Yang carefully observed, and saw that after Yang Likuan triggered the restriction, he had left behind 3 golden rings. They were obtained by Yang Likuan when he hunted Qiongqi. After a cultivator is eliminated, if he has a golden ring on him, will it be left in the small world where he died? Chu Yang rubbed his chin. As he thought about it, he played with a golden ring in his hand. Chapter 683. Inside the small world, seeing Yang Likuan trigger the mana restriction, the black light on Zhou Yunsong's body gradually dissipated. He turned around and walked in front of Li Xingfei. Li Xingfei's face was pale, but she was still in good spirits. She looked at Zhou Yunsong and sighed. Su Yinxing and Ning Luozha are going to suffer a big blow. Junior apprentice brother Zhou, I really didn't expect you to be so strong. I never knew before. Zhou Yunsong was silent for a while and said, I can't fight you guys. Li Xingfei nodded. Yes, even with the mana restriction of Great Law Hall to protect your life, if you fight with us, it will burn our magic power. I'm afraid only senior apprentice Sister Yuding can fight with you without suppressing her cultivation. Zhou Yunsong looked at the top of Li Xingfei's head. There was a golden light floating above her head. There was a number written on the golden light, 4. This golden light wasn't from Li Xingfei herself. It was a projection of Great Law Hall's mana. When Li Xingfei fought Qiongqi, when she fought Yang Likuan, and when she was trapped in the abyss of lightning fire in the small world, the number didn't change. Above Zhou Yunsong's head, a golden light condensed into a number, 1. Yang Likuan just now had a golden light above his head, 3. This golden light represented the number of golden rings in each person's hand. Everyone in the small world could see it. Li Xingfei already had 4 golden rings. Yang Likuan had 3. Zhou Yunsong only had 1 golden ring because he had just entered the small world. He turned back to look at the spot where young Likuan had disappeared. The 3 golden bangles landed quietly on the ground. Zhou Yunsong grabbed them, and the golden number above his head turned into 4. Zhou Yunsong handed the 3 golden rings to Li Xingfei. Li Xingfei shook her head and took out her 4 golden rings for Zhou Yunsong. My injuries are very serious. Out of Masters, Ultimate Celestial Path Scripture, I've only cultivated the power of nirvanic extermination, and not the power of creation. This has caused my recovery to be very slow. Even consuming medicinal pills can only temporarily stabilize my injuries. Zhou Yunsong turned his palm and a green stream of water appeared. This was the lunar true water, best at healing injured bodies and souls. However, his lunar true water was relatively weak. It would take a long time for it to be effective. Li Xingfei waved her hand. Junior apprentice Brother Zhou, there's no need. Only the top 8 of the second stage can advance to the third stage. Don't waste time because of me. Other than my injuries, my mana is also severely used. Other than taking medicinal pills to recover, I can't reach my peak condition. It will be very difficult. Even if I manage to enter the third stage by luck, I might not be able to defeat the cultivators from other sections. It would be a waste of our sect's reputation. I might as well help you. She smiled faintly. Even that fatty can make a prompt decision, why can't I? Then she endured the pain all over her body and summoned her remaining mana. She pointed a finger at the space between her eyebrows, and she died instantly. The Great Law Hall's spell was activated, instantly protecting her life and sending her out of the small world. Zhou Yunsong watched as Li Xingfei disappeared. After a moment of silence, he silently put away Li Xingfei's 4 golden rings. The golden number above his head turned into 8. Inside the All-Heaven Grand Hall, Xiaoyan Zhuyi and the others smiled. In the face of danger, she was calm, strong, and had the ability to kill 5 Qiongqi beasts. Even when young Likuan ambushed her, she could still maintain her composure and find a chance to counterattack and severely injure young Likuan. Now, she could decisively sacrifice herself to help her fellow sect member. Li Xingfei's performance made Xiao Yan and the others nod their heads. Wang Lin's expression was calm. He stood up and said, I'll go take a look at her. Her injuries cannot be delayed. The Great Law Hall's spell could only protect her life. Her previous injuries were still there. Lin Feng smiled faintly and did not say anything. He sat on the main seat and continued to watch the scene in the light and shadow illusion. The fight for the golden rings had gradually become white-hot. As the first 8 groups of cultivators in the first stage all entered the small world, Qiongqi's life became more and more difficult. A large number of Qiongqi were either killed or killed after their golden rings were taken. The number of Qiongqi in the small world decreased, and most of the golden rings were transferred to the cultivators who were participating in the spell assembly. More and more fights broke out among the cultivators. Generally speaking, everyone was taking advantage of each other's location. No one was like young Likuan, who teamed up with Qiongqi to fight against the human cultivators. The group of Yuanshan elders carefully watched the process of the spell assembly, and gradually found a problem. There were originally more than 100 Qiongqi in the small world, and naturally, more than 100 golden rings. Only the first 8 winners of the second stage could advance to the third stage, and a total of 80 golden rings were needed. However, because Qiongqi was killed first, it would be sent out of the small world along with the golden rings. Therefore, the number of golden rings that the cultivators who participated in the spell assembly could obtain was actually far from that many. Li Xingfei had just wasted 5 golden rings. If Qiongqi was not captured alive and killed directly, the golden rings would disappear. When other cultivators were killed, the golden rings would remain in place. After realizing this, more and more people began to target other cultivators. The golden numbers above everyone's heads were like signboards. The bigger the number, the easier it was for others to covet it. Chu Yang stood on the hill and looked up at the number 1 above his head. After thinking for a while, he took out a small storage bag. This type of storage bag was specially made to prevent the aura of spiritual items from leaking out. It was originally the best tool for gathering spiritual herbs. After Chu Yang placed the golden rings inside, they had the same effect. The aura emitted by the golden rings was actually very weak. Only the mana restriction of the Hall of Spreading Law could sense it. It was very difficult for Foundation establishment cultivators to detect it. Now that it was stored in this special storage bag, not even a bit of spiritual energy leaked out. However, when Chu Yang held the golden rings, the golden numbers above his head were still there. Chu Yang looked around. There were strange rocks on the hill that were strangely shaped like a person's palm. They were very eye-catching and were perfect for making marks. After carefully sensing his surroundings and confirming that no one was paying attention to him, Chu Yang buried the storage bag with the golden rings under the strange rocks. After leaving Chu Yang's body, the golden numbers above Chu Yang's head instantly disappeared. He nodded in satisfaction and jumped down the hill. Chu Yang walked between the mountains and rivers. Suddenly his eyes flashed slightly. However, he did not stop and continued to walk forward. Just now, he faintly felt that there was someone lying in ambush in this area. However, Chu Yang did not show any abnormalities. Even if there was an ambush, it wouldn't be him. There was no golden number above his head, indicating that he did not have the golden rings. There were no enemies among the cultivators participating in the spell gathering, so there was no way the ambush would be wasted on him. As expected, Chu Yang's path was calm. The hidden ambush did not move at all, and completely ignored Chu Yang. However, Chu Yang was not someone to be trifled with. After walking for a while, he took a deep breath. Within the golden elixir inside his body, a shadow lightly trembled, and a faint light poured out from his golden elixir. This light shone on Chu Yang's body from the inside out. Chu Yang's aura suddenly changed, and in the next moment his figure disappeared. In reality, Chu Yang did not truly disappear, nor did he hunch his body to find a place to hide. He simply stood there leisurely, causing others to involuntarily ignore his existence. It was as if he was standing there without anything. This was because he had almost perfectly merged with the outside world. When others saw his figure, it was no different from seeing the mountains and grass. This was why they felt as if Chu Yang had disappeared. Naturally, this method could not be hidden from those with high cultivation. However, the majority of Foundation establishment cultivators were unable to detect him. Even some golden elixir period cultivators might not be able to detect him. If Chu Yang left the Spreading Law Hall's magic power suppression, then even golden elixir stage cultivators would not be able to detect him. Chu Yang leisurely returned to the ambush spot that the others had set up, and just waited there leisurely. Very quickly his targets arrived. They were two dragon shadows. One was a young man, and the other was a young girl. They were the Qin dynasty's Shi Xiaoqian and Shi Jingyun. Golden numbers floated above their heads. One was 5 and the other was 4. Clearly they had gained a lot. However, just as they stepped into the area, a change occurred. Waves of light soared into the sky and turned into a huge spell formation, trapping the two of them. A figure appeared in the spell formation. He wore a white robe with a white cloud embroidered on the lapel. His appearance was handsome. Although he was a man, he had a pair of phoenix eyes. Seeing him, Shi Xiaoqian and Shi Jingyun slightly frowned. They recognized him as a young cultivator from the Taishu Temple like Chen Xingyu. His name was Fan Xiefeng and his performance was extremely outstanding. He was in the same group as Su Yunxing and Ing Luoza, the first group of cultivators to enter the small world. The golden number above his head was a large 7, indicating that he was in the lead in the second stage. His performance was not bad. At this moment, he was in a flag formation. 7 different colored flags fluttered in the wind, supporting a powerful formation. The Dharma Assembly prohibited the use of magic tools. Everything depended on one's own magic power. The only 2 exceptions were sword cultivators and formation cultivators. Sword cultivators' cultivation was all on their swords, so it was naturally impossible to prohibit them. Formation cultivators also needed magic tools to set up formations, so the Dharma Assembly allowed them to use magic tools. To be fair, when other cultivators fought with sword cultivators and formation cultivators, they could also use their own magic tools. However, their strength was limited to the Foundation establishment stage, and could not reach the golden elixir period. Fan Xiefeng's spell formation opened, and 7 colored clouds surrounded Shi Xiaoqian and Shi Jingyun. trapping them. Although they were ambushed and the other party used the formation to gain the geographical advantage, Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyun were also extraordinary as the rising stars that the great Qin dynasty had carefully nurtured. Shi Shaoqian formed hand seals with both hands, and 2 light dragons, one red and one yellow, revolved around him. They were the true teachings of the Red Dragon Imperial Book and the Yellow Dragon Imperial Book. Compared to the time at the Desolate Sea Assembly, Shi Shaoqian's strength had also increased greatly. It was not just his core formation. He clapped his hands, and a green light dragon appeared in the air. It was the manifestation of the Green Dragon Emperor's book. Cousin, you don't have to do this. You were injured before, so you can just use the red and yellow dragons. As Shi Jingyun spoke, light also shone around him. It was the green, black, and white light dragons. Chu Yang's eyes lit up. I remember that her true cultivation is at the late stage of foundation establishment. She has actually cultivated 3 of the 5 Emperor's true dragon's inheritances? Chapter 684. In the past, on the North Wind Sea, Shi Shaoqian was in the late foundation establishment realm. At the same time, he also cultivated the 5 Emperor's true dragon scriptures, the Red Dragon Scriptures and the Yellow Dragon Scriptures, which showed his great talent in Tao. Later on, Shi Xingyun was in the late Golden Elixir realm. The 5 colored light dragons flew together, the 5 elements were born, and the Dharma was infinite. Now that Shi Jingyun was in the late Foundation Establishment realm, she revealed the Green Dragon Scriptures, the Black Dragon Scriptures, and the White Dragon Scriptures at the same time. Her talent was even more amazing than Shi Shaoqian's when they were in the same realm. People could vaguely see the shadow of Shi Xingyun in her. In the Celestial Hall, the group of Primordial Divinity Realm big shots watched the scene with interest. Those who were close to Emperor Qin congratulated him. Xiaoyan slightly tilted his head, using his mana to transmit to the group of junior brothers and sisters beside him. Senior Stonefeather's standard of giving birth to a daughter is really not bad. It's just that the standard of giving birth to a son is a little lacking. There's only one Shi Chongyan, and he's still a repulsive person. Zhu Yi and the others smiled. Zhu Yi pointed at Xiaoyan and said with a smile, "Eldest senior brother, your mouth is too unkind." Xiaoyan snickered. "Since I've done it, I'll say it. This isn't me being sarcastic." In the small world, Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyun's mana connected into one. The heads and tails of the 5 colored light dragons white, green, black, yellow and red connected, turning into a 5 colored halo. The 5 elements were born, and it grew stronger and stronger. This joint attack made the cultivators from other forces look at it in a different light. Even the group of Primordial Divinity Realm big shots paid attention to it. This was a supernatural power that the Qin dynasty had never shown before. It must have been newly developed in recent years. Now that it was revealed, it immediately attracted everyone's attention. Dao Master Chengel smiled and said, "There are still many things I haven't mastered yet. Please don't be stingy with your advice." Just as he had said, the 5 elemental light dragon formed by Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyun was far inferior to Shi Xingyun's perfect rotation, but it was still quite extraordinary. The crown prince of the Zhou dynasty, Liang'an, and Marquis Jinghuan were sitting in separate rooms in the Hall of Spreading Law. When they saw this, they sat up slightly and nodded in unison. They thought to themselves, the great Qin dynasty has indeed made further improvements to their 5 Emperor True Dragon secret arts and techniques, and they have achieved the desired results. The circle of light continued to expand, opposing the Taishu Temple Fan Xiefeng's formation. There were many limitations to the formation, but as long as the formation was completed and the formation was activated, its power would always be outstanding among the divine abilities and Dharma spells of the same level. Fan Xiefeng was fighting 1 against 2, but he did not seem to be at a disadvantage. Inside the All Heavens Grand Hall, Yu Hongyan turned to look at Li Yuanfang and asked, "Sixth junior brother, I heard that the Taishu Temple has a top-tier array formation called the 7 Lights Defense Formation?" "There is indeed such a array formation." Li Yuanfang nodded his head and said, "After the Grand Supreme Void Yin-Yang formation, it is the second strongest array formation in the Taishu Temple. In the Divine Land, Other than a few great mountain guarding arrays, this Seven Lights defense formation can be said to be a top-tier existence, comparable to the Six Meridians' Heavenly Immortal Sword formation. At this point, Li Yuanfang changed the topic and said, however, the array formation that this person set up is not the complete Seven Lights defense formation. Not only is the quality of the array formation not up to standard, the array formation itself is a simplified version. Its power is not even a fraction of the Seven Lights defense formation. There are many parts of the array formation that are difficult to understand, and there are some parts that are not well understood. The worst thing is that there are two patterns that are completely wrong. This is the first time I have seen this array formation, so I was not sure at first. Now that I have looked at it for a while, I can finally confirm that there are two patterns in the southeast that are wrong. Xiaoyan looked at Yu Hongyan and said with a smile, fortunately you used Transcendence sound transmission to talk to him. Because Yu Hongyan used Transcendence sound transmission to talk to Li Yuanfang at the beginning, Li Yuanfang also used Transcendence sound transmission to reply. Their voices could only be heard by the senior and junior brothers of Xianmen Tianzong. Zhu Yi smiled and said, to be straightforward and point out the error, sixth apprentice brother did not do anything wrong. His gaze fell on Chu Yang, who was in the light and shadow illusionary realm. I'm rather interested in this fellow Taoist from the Beyond Heaven Mountain. 3 years have passed in the boundless universe, and I can see that he has also cultivated in the heavenly abode that has accelerated time. However, it shouldn't have been too long, and he has already formed his gold core. If Xu Shan had provided him with resources and he had talent, it would not be a big deal for him to have such achievements. However, Beyond Heaven Mountain has clearly turned its back on Xu Shan and leaned towards our sect. Yet, our sect has not given this fellow Taoist Chu any obvious help. It is really not easy for him to have achieved what he has today. Zhu Yi looked at Chu Yang, who was silently hiding at the side and watching the battle between Fan Xiefeng, Shi Xiaoqian and Shi Jingyun. Slowly he said, although I do not know what kind of Dao, technique, and mystique he is using, his ability to hide is quite outstanding. It does not seem like he is from Beyond Heaven Mountain's orthodoxy. Xiaoyan smiled and said, he is also a person with fate. Now that you mention it, I also remember that when he and the people from Beyond Heaven Mountain first arrived at Cloud Mirror City, I saw him. At that time, I felt that this person was a little different from the rest. Zhu Yi nodded and said, let's see how he performs. At this moment, the battle situation had nothing to do with Chu Yang. Fan Xiefeng, Shi Xiaoqian, and Shi Jingyun were locked in a fierce battle. At this moment, a figure appeared within the Seven Lights defense design. He held a sharp sword in his hand, and the sword chi seemed to reach the heavens. It was the direct descendant of the Heavenly Sword sect, Kong Hai, who had been in the same group as Chun Xingyu in the first stage. The golden number 3 lit up above his head. Because of the unexpected situation, their group's arrival at the top of the starry pagoda had been delayed by a lot. At this moment, Kong Hai had joined forces with Fan Xiefeng and used the Heavenly Sword sect's Heavenly Sword escape technique. He was constantly entangling Shi Xiaoqian and Shi Jingyun, attacking together with the Seven Lights defense design. His appearance caused Shi Xiaoqian and Shi Jingyun's hearts to sink. Kong Hai's extraordinary cultivation was secondary. The key was that the speed of his Heavenly Sword escape technique was too fast. Among all the cultivators participating in the Dharma Assembly, Kong Hai's speed of escape was among the best. There were only a few people who could match him, let alone those who could surpass him. Kong Hai and Fan Xiefeng joined forces, completely eliminating the possibility of Shi Xiaoqian and Shi Jingyun escaping. Even if they could break out of Fan Xiefeng's Seven Lights defense design, Kong Hai could use his advantage in speed to entangle them. He did not need to fight them head-on. All he needed to do was buy time for Fan Xiefeng to rearrange his formation. If they did not escape, it would be very difficult for the two to fight. Fan Xiefeng's formation, with the help of the terrain, was extraordinary and could already contend with them. Now that Kong Hai had joined the fray, the battle situation immediately became unbalanced. Shi Xiaoqian and Shi Jingyun could only defend, and could not retaliate. Since appearing, Fan Xiefeng spoke for the first time. The two of you have extraordinary cultivation. Even if I join forces with fellow Taoist Kong, We cannot win quickly. If this stalemate continues, it will be a waste of time. Only the top 8 can advance to the second stage. Time is precious, don't waste it. Shi Jingyan snorted. Easy for you to say. You really have good skills. But if you want us to lower our heads, you must be dreaming. Worst comes to worst, we'll just break up. Fan Xiefeng squinted his phoenix eyes and said unhurriedly, the two of you should be able to guess that fellow Taoist Kong and I are only after the golden hoop. Leave your golden hoop, and we will not make things difficult for you. You still have time to think of a way to get the other golden hoop. Perhaps you can make it to the top 8. If this stalemate continues, you will definitely lose. There is no chance at all. Fan Xiefeng pointed at the runes of the 7 lights defense formation on the ground. I don't want to fight to the death. Otherwise, I'll destroy all the treasures used to set up the formation, and push the power of the formation to the limit. I can defeat you guys quickly, but this will affect my ability to participate in the spell assembly. In a spell assembly, the priority is to learn from each other. There is no need to take the path of no return. Harming others without benefiting yourself, I hope the two of you will reconsider. His words were frank and used both hard and soft tactics. He wanted to destroy Shi Jingyan and Shi Shaoqian's fighting spirit, and end the battle quickly. After all, Fan Xiefeng already had 7 golden hoop. Shi Jingyan and Shi Shaoqian had a total of 9 golden hoop. He only needed 3 to make up the number and pass the second stage. Shi Jingyan raised her eyebrows and was about to speak when Shi Shaoqian suddenly said to her telepathically, "Give them our golden hoop." Shi Jingyan was stunned at first, but he quickly reacted. They had a total of 9 golden rings, and Fan Xiefeng only needed 3 to make up the number, but Kong Hai had 7, which was also enough to make up the number. If they gave the golden hoop now, it was very likely that they would start an internal conflict. With the 10 golden hoop in hand, they could not be transported out of this small world immediately. They had to wait for about a quarter of an hour. Too many things could be done in this quarter of an hour. The opportunity for the two of them to turn defeat into victory might be here. After understanding the logic, Shi Jingyan snorted, "Fan Xiefeng, you're good." As she spoke, she took out 5 of her golden hoop and threw it out. Shi Shaoqian also took out 4 golden hoop and threw them out. The 9 golden hoop flashed in the spell formation and disappeared. Almost at the same time, a sword light flashed, but it was 1 step slower. It was Kong Hai. Fan Xiefeng smiled. Of course he knew how fast Kong Hai was. Since he had come up with such a plan, he must have taken Kong Hai into consideration. Otherwise, if Kong Hai collected 10 golden rings first, he would be the one embarrassed. Fan Xiefeng opened his palm. The space above him flashed and 9 golden lights appeared. They were the golden hoop that had been transported by his spell formation. Although Kong Hai was fast, the 7-light defense formation was controlled by Fan Xiefeng. Fan Xiefeng smiled and said, "Taoist Kong, do you not trust me? I only need 3 golden hoop. The rest are yours." Halfway through his words, Fan Xiefeng's expression changed. He looked like he had seen a ghost. A strange sword light suddenly flew out and swept away the 9 golden hoop. A black-robed youth appeared and took the golden hoop. In an instant he left, leaving behind a dumbfounded Fan Xiefeng and company. It was Chu Yang. His strange concealment technique allowed Fan Xiefeng, who was the spell formation's controller, to not sense him at all even though he had infiltrated the 7-light defense formation. Fan Xiefeng, Kong Hai, Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyan were stunned for a moment. They immediately reacted and chased after Chu Yang. Chu Yang could leave others behind, but Kong Hai's speed was above him. In the blink of an eye, Kong Hai had already caught up to him. Chu Yang didn't panic. Instead, he asked a question that left Kong Hai dumbfounded. "Fellow Taoist, do you have 3 golden rings with you?" Chapter 685. The Heavenly Sword Sect's Great Tao Heavenly Sword, along with the Mount Shu Sword Sect's Shaozi Sword Artifact, and the Celeritas Sword Sect's Xana Sword Escape, were known as the 3 fastest sword arts in the Divine Land. At the same time, they were among the fastest arts in the human cultivation world in the Divine Land. Although Kong Hai's Heavenly Sword Escape was inferior to the Great Tao Heavenly Sword, The cultivators participating in this spell assembly were all in the golden elixir period and the foundation establishment stage. After everyone's cultivation had been suppressed to the foundation establishment stage, Kong Hai's speed was one of the best. In the current situation in terms of speed, Kong Hai was the fastest. He quickly caught up to Chu Yang. But at this moment, Chu Yang's question made Kong Hai slightly stunned. "Friend, do you have 3 golden hoops on hand now?" Chu Yang asked with a smile. Kong Hai frowned slightly but still answered calmly, "I am ashamed. I am still far from the number of golden hoops I have. I only have 3. Chu Yang smiled. "That's great. I only want 2 of the 9 golden hoops I have. I can give the remaining 7 to you. That way, you will have enough golden hoops." When Chu Yang asked this question, Kong Hai's heart trembled slightly as he thought of this possibility. However, Chu Yang's decisiveness still caused Kong Hai to sigh in admiration. The level of this child's cultivation is secondary. His temperament is truly rare. Chu Yang was the Oriole behind. He had stolen 9 golden hoops from Fan Xiefeng, which was almost enough to satisfy one person's needs. But now, Chu Yang gave 7 to Kong Hai without even blinking. This was because looking at everyone present, only Kong Hai could pose a real threat to Chu Yang. The others, whether it was Fan Xiefeng, Shi Jingyun, or Shi Shaoqian, could not do anything to Chu Yang. Whether Chu Yang could beat them or not was another matter. If he did not want to fight, he could just leave. They could only watch. Only Kong Hai, who cultivated the Heavenspan Sword Escape, could surpass Chu Yang in terms of speed. He didn't need to fight Chu Yang to the death. All he needed to do was tie down Chu Yang's footsteps. When the others caught up, Chu Yang, with his 9 golden rings, would naturally become the target of everyone. Chu Yang's movements were not sloppy. He immediately counted out 7 golden hoops and threw them to Kong Hai. Kong Hai caught the golden hoops and looked at Chu Yang with a complicated gaze. But in the end he still said, "Thanks." After saying that, he no longer chased after Chu Yang. With a flash of sword light, he flew in another direction. Chu Yang didn't expect Kong Hai to help him. These 7 gold rings were used to buy Kong Hai's hand. Although Fan Xiefeng was far away, he could still hear the conversation between Chu Yang and Kong Hai. As soon as Chu Yang said the first sentence, Fan Xiefeng cursed in his heart. Not good. Kong Hai had taken the golden bangle, and there was nothing he could do. Kong Hai's heavenly sword escape was too fast. Unless Fan Xiefeng trapped him in the formation, no one could stop Kong Hai if he wanted to leave. Fan Xiefeng and Kong Hai had formed an alliance in order to gather the gold rings needed to clear the level as soon as possible. Now that Kong Hai had achieved his goal, he naturally did not need to team up with Fan Xiefeng anymore. Kong Hai was the only one who did not have to worry about being ganged up on by others after gathering the golden hoops. This was because his speed was the fastest. If he gathered all 10 golden hoops, the others would not have any hope and could only blame it on their bad luck. Fan Xiefeng frowned as he looked at Chu Yang. It was this person who had ruined all his plans. "Fellow Taoist, please excuse me." Chu Yang did not panic. Not only did he stop running, he turned around to face Fan Xiefeng. Even though his plan had failed, Fan Xiefeng did not lose his cool. When he saw Chu Yang taking the initiative to attack instead of retreating, Fan Xiefeng felt a sense of unease in his heart. As expected, Chu Yang raised his voice. "Fellow Taoists of the Great Qin dynasty, if you have a grudge, then take your revenge. If you want to take revenge, then the opportunity is right in front of you." Fan Xiefeng's heart sank. The uneasy feeling from before had finally come true. He suddenly realized that he had fallen into an extremely disadvantageous situation. Turning around, Shi Jingyun and Shi Shaoqian had turned into 2 dragon silhouettes and had caught up. Hearing Chu Yang's words, Shi Jingyun's face turned red. Dissatisfied, she snorted. "Our golden hoops seem to have fallen into your hands. And you even gave them to that Kong Hai." Chu Yang clapped his hands and laughed. "According to what I know, this fellow from the Taishu Temple has 7 golden hoops. He only had 2 golden hoops left. Between 2 and 7, even an idiot could tell which was the greater harvest." Shi Jingyun and Shi Shaoqian's eyes lit up. Kong Hai had already escaped far away, leaving only Fan Xiefeng. With the combined strength of the 3, it would be difficult for Fan Xiefeng to escape even if he wanted to. But on the other hand, if Chu Yang wanted to run, with the speed he had displayed earlier, no one would be able to catch up to him after Kong Hai left. And Kong Hai had already collected 10 golden hoops. Naturally, he would be happy to leave and wait for 15 minutes to pass the second stage. Therefore, Chu Yang was now in an absolutely safe position. He could attack or retreat at will. On the contrary, Fan Xiefeng was pushed to the wall and could not get down. Shi Shaoqian nodded slightly. Shi Jingyun understood what she meant. The only thing they needed to be careful was not to let Chu Yang use the same trick and steal all the golden hoops. Chu Yang laughed. Both of you, a gentleman's revenge is right in front of you. Even without the golden hoops, why are you hesitating? Shi Shaoqian looked at Fan Xiefeng and sneered. That's right. Even without the golden hoops, Fan Xiefeng, you won't have it easy today. Shi Jingyun and Shi Shaoqian were tricked by Fan Xiefeng, and were forced to hand over the golden hoops to buy their way. Although it was an expedient measure, they still felt deeply humiliated. Who would have thought that the tables would turn, and they would have the chance to take revenge so soon? Fan Xiefeng took a deep breath and regained his composure. He took a deep look at Chu Yang. With a flip of the hand, he could summon clouds and rain. Looking at Chu Yang, these words appeared in Fan Xiefeng's mind. Everything was going according to Chu Yang's plan. With just a few simple steps, the situation had completely changed. Fan Xiefeng, who originally had the upper hand, had instantly fallen into an extremely dangerous situation. Regardless of Chu Yang's cultivation level, the crux of the matter was that Chu Yang had decisively given up the 7 golden hoops, indirectly eliminating Kong Hai. It sounded simple, but how many people would be able to give up most of the gold rings, and let others take advantage of them when they already had 9 gold rings and only needed 1 more ring to make up the number? Fan Xiefeng knew that he could do it, but he would not be as decisive as Chu Yang, who did not hesitate for even a second. If Chu Yang had hesitated for just a moment longer, and was entangled by Kong Hai, when Fan Xiefeng and the rest caught up, it would have given Fan Xiefeng time to set up the formation, and it would not be easy for Chu Yang to leave. But now the person in danger was Fan Xiefeng. He was blocked by Chu Yang and the other 2 from the front and the back. Everyone in the All Heavens Palace was watching this scene with interest. Yan Mingyue shook her head and said with a smile, "Haha, Shuefeng has suffered a great setback. I didn't expect this. I really didn't expect this. He is a genius. I remember he is a disciple of Beyond Heaven Mountain, right?" Lin Daohan said indifferently. Chu Yang, a disciple of Beyond Heaven Mountain's elder Meng Chaoran. He was once a guest in the residence of the great Zhou dynasty's 4th prince, Liang Qian, for over a year. 3 years ago, after bidding farewell to Liang Qian, he returned to Beyond Heaven Mountain to cultivate. After a short pause, Lin Daohan continued, including the time he spent cultivating in the accelerated time grotto. It took him less than 10 years to reach the early stage of golden elixir from Qi disciple realm level 10. All the primordial divinity experts present were slightly surprised. Dao Master Changle of the Great Qin dynasty stroked his long beard and said with a smile, "His cultivation talent is also extremely outstanding. A rare talent has appeared in Beyond Heaven Mountain, but he should have his own opportunities and fortunes, right? Just look at his concealment technique and outstanding speed escape technique. Although it is derived from Beyond Heaven Mountain's technique, it is much better." In the Spreading Law Hall, the cultivators from various families were also discussing. They did not expect a dark horse to appear in this spell conference. Beyond Heaven Mountain was not considered the weakest among the forces that came to Kunlun Mountain to watch the ceremony. There were also many local small and medium-sized forces that came to Kunlun Mountain to congratulate them. However, these small and medium-sized forces were self-aware. They did not have a worthy successor, so they simply did not participate in the spell conference. Beyond Heaven Mountain sent Chu Yang to participate in the spell conference. In fact, it was mostly to train and gain experience. They did not really have the intention to compete with the major forces. Seeing Chu Yang's performance, many of the cultivators from Beyond Heaven Mountain were quite surprised. Apart from being pleasantly surprised, there were also many doubts. The elders of Beyond Heaven Mountain looked at each other with complicated gazes. They were bewildered. One of the elders said, When martial nephew Chu comes down, we must ask him. Slowly, Wu Yinliang nodded and looked at Meng Chaoran. In the depths of their eyes, there was a sense of understanding hidden in their hearts. In the small world, Chu Yang, who had amazed everyone, was now looking at Fan Xiefeng and thinking, what will he do? Will he cut his losses and hand over the 7 golden rings to Great Qins Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyan? Fan Xiefeng looked at Chu Yang, then looked at Shi Jingyan and Shi Shaoqian. Suddenly he smiled. His red phoenix eyes squinted. He leisurely took out his storage pouch filled with golden rings and poured them out. There were exactly 7 of them. Shi Jingyan and Shi Shaoqian's eyes lit up. If they could obtain Fan Xiefeng's 7 golden rings, they would be able to make up for most of their losses. Fan Xiefeng smiled and put the golden rings back into the storage pouch. However, he did not put them back into his own pocket. Instead, he threw them to Chu Yang. This action was beyond everyone's expectations. Even though Chu Yang had displayed his skills in concealment and escape, among the 3 people who attacked Fan Xiefeng, he was the weakest. However, Fan Xiefeng had chosen him to be the one to receive the fruits of victory. It was obvious that he wanted to divert the disaster. Fan Xiefeng watched as the storage pouch drew an arc in the air and fell towards Chu Yang. Chu Yang almost instinctively reached out to catch it. This scene fell into Fan Xiefeng's eyes and he immediately laughed. Who wins and who loses in this game of chess is now the key. Chapter 686. Seeing Fan Xiefeng toss the storage pouch containing the golden hoops to Chu Yang, Shi Jingyan and Shi Shaoqian frowned slightly. Seeing this, Fan Xiefeng squinted his eyes and smiled. This was his main goal. He was betting on Chu Yang getting carried away. Without Kong Hai restraining him, Chu Yang could leave whenever he wanted, and was in a very safe position. Without a threat, a person's vigilance would often drop. When faced with a great temptation, they would become greedier and unable to think calmly. Previously, with Kong Hai's threat, Chu Yang dared to decisively give up the 7 golden hoops. But now, faced with the temptation of the 7 golden hoops, Chu Yang, who felt safe, might not have the courage to do so. Or rather, this was Chu Yang's own confidence. He believed that without Kong Hai's interference, no matter how many golden hoops he had, he could keep them. And Fan Xiefeng wanted to make use of this confidence of Chu Yang's. While diverting the conflict, he wanted Chu Yang to suffer greatly. He, Fan Xiefeng, was not an incompetent person who would let others bully him without doing anything. Fan Xiefeng looked at Chu Yang and said calmly, "Now you can't leave." With that, he formed a seal with his right hand and shouted in a low voice, "True form of the 7 peaks array, open." With the activation of his magic power, Chu Yang instantly felt the storage pouch in his hand change. The entire storage pouch exploded and the 7 golden hoops flew into the air. Each golden hoops was covered in runes and seals. On the small golden hoops, there was a spirit array engraved. The 7 golden hoops and several small spirit arrays combined to form a giant spirit array above Chu Yang's head. Within the spirit array, the faint silhouette of 7 mountain peaks flashed. With a tremendous weight, it pressed down on Chu Yang's head. Under the effect of the true form of the 7 peaks array, Chu Yang's figure was immediately fixed in place, preventing him from using his escape technique to escape. Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyan were slightly startled before they reacted. Fan Xiefeng had actually set up a spirit array on his 7 golden hoops. He had secretly left a trap, instantly trapping Chu Yang. Originally, Chu Yang could leave as he pleased. Now his unfettered state of safety disappeared, and the situation reversed in an instant. The current Chu Yang had a large golden number 9 above his head. He was surrounded by Fan Xiefeng, Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyan. He was like a fat sheep waiting to be slaughtered. Currently, Fan Xiefeng did not have a single golden hoop on him. Although Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyan were displeased with his ambush, it was obvious that they would lose more than they gained by making things difficult for Fan Xiefeng. Naturally, they turned their attention to Chu Yang. The ups and downs of the battle were like a roller coaster ride, which surprised everyone in the spreading law hall. Inside the All-Heaven Grand Hall, the group of Essence Soul experts shook their heads and sighed. Fan Xiefeng was not anxious or rash after suffering a setback. He calmly made plans and turned the situation around once again, turning it into a situation where he killed Chu Yang. They were very satisfied with the young man's performance. Sun Luminary Sword Venerable looked at Lin Daohan and Yan Mingyue. He smiled and said, "The successor of Taishu, you live up to your reputation." Lin Daohan nodded his head in thanks. Yan Mingyue smiled and shook her head. "It's not the end yet. It's still too early to say." As if to prove her words, Chu Yang, who had fallen from the clouds to the bottom of the valley, did not panic even though his expression was solemn. Although he was a little surprised, Chu Yang had already thought of the situation he would face when he dared to accept Fan Xiefeng's 7 golden hoop in such an ostentatious manner. Fan Xiefeng let out a long sigh of relief. He had finally turned the disadvantageous situation around. Now he had to think about his next step. Perhaps, with a good plan, he could take all 9 golden hoop from Chu Yang? As he thought about this, Fan Xiefeng did not stop attacking. He decisively attacked Chu Yang with Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyan. Chu Yang looked at Fan Xiefeng and thought, "Luckily you are an array formation cultivator. This way, it's not against the rules for me to use an artifact. However, if you weren't an array formation cultivator, you wouldn't have been able to trap me. Luckily, I was prepared and could use this artifact as a disguise. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to hide it." As he thought about it, Chu Yang waved his hand and shot out 2 talismans. The 2 talismans shone in the air at the same time. One of them was dimmer, but it did not give off the feeling of being weak. It was like a dark shadow, appearing and disappearing, making it hard to grasp. The other talisman was extremely sharp. At the same time, it was dazzling like the sun rising from the east. Although the light was different, there was no doubt that the 2 beams of light were sword beams. Chu Yang pointed the long sword in his hand, and his body became one with the sword. His entire body first fused with the first sword beam, becoming like a dark shadow as he hid in the void. Fan Xiefeng's true form of the 7 peaks array was unable to suppress him. In Fan Xiefeng's spiritual sense, which was connected to the array formation, Chu Yang seemed to have suddenly disappeared, without a trace. The dark shadow-like sword beam flashed, directly breaking the array formation runes engraved on the golden hoop, and collecting the 7 golden hoop. At this moment, the attacks of Fan Xiefeng and the other 2 arrived. The overwhelming attacks came crashing down. Even if Chu Yang turned into a dark shadow, as long as he existed, there was still no way for him to escape. However, Chu Yang did not want to be entangled with them. The dark shadow sword beam broke through the array formation that trapped him, and collected the golden hoop. In the next moment he separated from the dark shadow sword beam, and fused with the sharp and dazzling second sword beam. With an explosion of shocking power, he soared into the sky. Like a rainbow piercing through the sun, Chu Yang chose Shi Shaoqian, who was already injured and had unstable mana, as a breakthrough point. He directly killed his way out of the encirclement. Once he was free, Chu Yang immediately used the sword escape and went far away, leaving Fan Xiefeng, Shi Jingyan, and Shi Shaoqian behind him. The crowd of cultivators in the spreading law hall was instantly in an uproar. No one expected that after Fan Xiefeng found the opportunity to turn the tables and turn the situation around, the final result was still failure, and Chu Yang killed his way out of the encirclement. Under the encirclement of the Taishu Temple's direct disciple, Fan Xiefeng, and the Great Qin Dynasty's direct disciple, Shi Jingyan and Shi Shaoqian, Chu Yang was still able to escape safely and take away the 9 golden hoop. Chu Yang's performance amazed everyone. Previously it was just his scheming. But the last wave of breaking out of the encirclement showed that this unknown young cultivator from beyond Heaven Mountain, even his strength was not to be underestimated. He was equally outstanding. Up until now, apart from Zhou Yunsong, Chu Yang could be considered as the biggest dark horse in this year's Dharma Assembly. Moreover, in the crowd's eyes, he was even more outstanding than Zhou Yunsong. Regardless of whether Zhou Yunsong had few disciples in the Nirvana Paradise, Zhou Yunsong was still the direct disciple of Xianmen Tianzong. Many people had expected him to have such amazing strength. It was just that before he entered the Starry Sky Pagoda, Zhou Yunsong suddenly went berserk. This gave many people the wrong impression, and caused them to subconsciously lower their expectations of him. That was why Zhou Yunsong's counterattack was so unexpected. As for Chu Yang, from the very beginning his face was plastered with labels like, exchange first, competition second, professional to make up the numbers and special to travel. The group of primordial spirit experts in the All-Heaven Palace were also quite surprised. At this moment, everyone's gaze fell on Chu Yang. However, they were no longer paying attention to Chu Yang. Celestial Sword Venerable turned his head to look at Lin Feng, and Taishu Temple's Lin Daohan hesitantly. If I'm not mistaken, the two tokens that Chu Yang shot out just now seem to be the Sky Sword token of the Heavenly Gate? Thunderous Sword Venerable, Flowing Light Sword Venerable, Emerald Wave Sword Venerable, Brilliant Sun Sword Venerable, Desolation Sword Venerable, and Constellation Sword Venerable all had grave expressions on their faces. The era of the Heavenly Gate's destruction was too long ago. It was so long ago that these primordial spirit experts had yet to be born. They had only seen some records about the Heavenly Gate in the sect's ancient books. Slowly Lin Daohan said, "It's indeed the Sky Sword token of the Heavenly Gate. These two sword tokens should have stored the sword lights of the Northwest Serene Heavenly Sword and the Southeast Yang Heavenly Sword respectively." Celestial Sword Venerable of the Thunderclap slapped the armrest of his chair. No wonder his sword principles were obviously different, and much more brilliant even though they were from the Beyond Heaven Mountain's inheritance. It turns out that he has the Sky Sword token. He paused for a moment, then took a deep breath and said, "Did he obtain the inheritance of the Heavenly Gate's Great Nine Heavens Divine Sword? Or did he unearth a Heavenly Gate relic by chance and obtain a few Sky Sword tokens?" If it was the former, it was no small matter. If it was the latter, it was not important. The Sky Sword token was a special product of the Heavenly Gate in the past. It was specially given to the disciples with lower cultivation to protect themselves. Its mana restriction was unique. Even the descendants of the Heavenly Gate could not figure out the Great Nine Heavens Divine Sword through the sword token. Any attempt to probe would only cause the sword token to self-destruct. It had been tried and tested many times. Both the Taishu Temple and the Mount Shu Sword sect had some Sky Sword tokens. However, with the abilities of these two sects, they could not decipher the mystery of the Great Nine Heavens Divine Sword. Looking at Lin Feng on the main seat, Celestial Sword Venerable of the Heavenly Gate slowly said, "This matter is not urgent. When the spell meeting is over, the leader of the Xianmen sect will take the lead and ask this child." Celestial Sword Venerable of the Heavenly Gate had gradually broken away from the Mount Shu Sword sect and attached itself to Xianmen Tianzong. This was Xianmen Tianzong's territory. Naturally, they could not bypass Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled. "Indeed, it is not urgent." Everyone turned to look at the illusion of light and shadow. After Chu Yang obtained the 9 golden rings, he quickly rushed to the hill where he had buried the first golden ring. Including that golden ring, he suddenly had 10 golden rings. As long as he was not schemed against in the future, he would be able to advance to the 3rd stage. This was because there were only 4 people who had successfully completed the 2nd stage. First place, Xianmen Tianzong's Qiantian Palace disciple Su Yinsheng. Second place, Xianmen Tianzong's Fanlin House disciple, Dao Yuding. Third place, Taishu Temple's disciple Chen Xingyu. His appearance finally prevented Xianmen Tianzong from monopolizing the top 3 places. This also made the others look forward to the 3rd stage. However, at the 4th place it was Xianmen Tianzong's disciple, Lin Tong, who was under Fen Tianya. The few big shots in the All-Heaven Hall looked at each other and estimated the time in their hearts. The next one will probably be Heavenly Sword Sect's Kong Hai, right? The 15 minutes are almost up. Everyone looked at Kong Hai in the illusion of light and shadow. As they were thinking about this, something strange happened. A figure appeared in front of Kong Hai. Chapter 687. The second phase of the fierce competition was gradually coming to an end. Most of the golden rings on Qiongqi's body in the small world had been transferred to the hands of the cultivators who were participating in the spell assembly, except for Qiongqi's own golden ring, which was destroyed by Qiongqi. Therefore, the cultivators also targeted the others and began to snatch the golden rings from them. Su Yunsheng of the celestial sect of Xianmen was one of the first to enter the small world. Apart from obtaining some golden rings from hunting Qiongqi, he had also obtained a few golden rings from fighting other cultivators. Thus, he was the first to collect 10 golden rings and successfully advance to the third stage as the first person in the group. Dao Yuding was slightly slower than him. The time spent in the second stage was basically the same, but Dao Yuding's group was slightly later than Su Yunsheng's group in the first stage of climbing the Starry Sky Pagoda. In the end, the difference in time was basically the same. Chen Xingyu, who was in the third place, attracted more attention. Not only did his presence prevent Xianmen Tianzong from monopolizing the first 2 places, but the 10 golden rings he collected in the second stage were all obtained from hunting Qiongqi. Chen Xingyu's 10 golden rings were all obtained from Qiongqi. From the beginning to the end, he did not fight with other cultivators. He did not snatch anyone's golden rings, nor was he robbed by anyone. He did not even come into contact with other cultivators. The cultivators in the Spreading Law Hall were just amazed, but the group of primordial spirit experts in the All-Heaven Grand Hall all revealed knowing smiles. It was not a coincidence that Chen Xingyu did not meet other cultivators. Instead, he was always one step ahead of others before they noticed his presence. There were also other cultivators who could do this. Some of them would specifically look for other cultivators to see if they had any golden rings on them. However, every time Chen Xingyu found other cultivators, he would avoid them. Due to the unexpected situation in the Starry Sky Pagoda, Chen Xingyu's group actually entered the second stage later than Su Yunsheng and Dao Yuding. However, after collecting 10 golden rings and passing the second stage, he did not fall too far behind and successfully took third place. At that time, the Heavenly Sword Sect's disciple Kong Hai, who had arrived at the top of the Starry Sky Pagoda with him and entered the small world, only had 3 golden rings. He was busy ambushing Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyun with Fan Xiefeng. After Chen Xingyu, everyone was hoping that there would be another cultivator from another power who could seize the 4th place, but in the end, the 4th place was still taken by little Lin Tong, who came from the celestial sect of 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 the celestial sect. Xiaoyan was overjoyed. Snatching my goddaughter's things? Please, including everyone who participated in the Starry Sky Pagoda. There are less than 5 people who can rob Tong in a duel. Luo Qinggu smiled and shook her head. Little Tong Er's appearance is too deceiving. Her strength is currently number 1 among Fun Tianya's direct disciples. Xiaoyan pointed at her and smiled. Just like you. Luo Qinggu giggled and waved her hand. Xiaowu can't do it. I should say, she's just like little senior brother back then. Thinking about how Shi Tianhao beat up Yuanying Patriarch when he was only 10 years old, Xiaoyan, Zhu Yi, and the others laughed even more. Next, I'm afraid the 5th place will be that Heavenly Sword Sect's Kong Hai. It's a pity for Yinsong. After laughing, Yu Hongyan looked at the light illusion and sighed. At this moment, in the pocket dimension, there was a conspicuous golden number, 10 on top of Zhou Yunsong's head. He had also gathered 10 golden hoops, and was now quietly waiting for 15 minutes to pass before he would be transported out of the pocket dimension. However, the time that Zhou Yunsong took to gather 10 golden hoops was slightly later than Kong Hai. In this way, the time that he would be transported out of the pocket dimension would also be slightly later. Yang Qing smiled. The world is unpredictable. Anything can happen. This is the original intention of the rules of the Starry Sky Pagoda. To be fair, Kong Hai's strength actually couldn't reach his current results. However, with many coincidences, he had the hope of becoming the 5th place, which was better than many people. Chu Yang directly gave Kong Hai 7 golden hoops, indirectly kicking Kong Hai out of the game. Not only did he not affect the situation on his side, it was also equivalent to guaranteeing Kong Hai's advancement to the 3rd stage. Everyone in the Spreading Law Hall looked at the lucky Kong Hai, and could not help but shake their heads and sigh. This luck was too good. Just as they were thinking about this, something strange happened. A figure suddenly appeared in front of Kong Hai. It was a tall youth who looked to be in his 20s. He had a handsome face and a determined expression. The number 1 of the Lei family's younger generation, also known as the young master of the Lei family, Lei Jia. The golden light above Lei Jie's head flashed. It was a golden number 5, indicating that he already had 5 golden hoops. In the first stage, Lei Jie did not walk with his group, but climbed the starry sky pagoda alone. Even so, his speed was extremely fast, even faster than the combined speed of the others in his group. Lei Jie had actually reached the top of the pagoda very early. However, due to the rules, he had to wait at the top of the pagoda until his group arrived. Only then did they advance to the second stage and enter the pocket dimension. According to the 8 groups that advanced in the first stage, Lei Jie's group belonged to the bottom. However, at this time, Lei Jie had already collected 5 golden hoops, displaying the same strong strength as when he ascended the pagoda. When Kong Hai saw Lei Jie, his brows furrowed slightly. He was not afraid of him, but he had already collected 10 golden hoops. All he needed to do was to advance. There was no need to waste his spiritual power and mental energy to fight with Lei Jie. Thinking of this, Kong Hai once again used the heavenly sword escape, wanting to escape far away and avoid Lei Jie, who knew that just as he moved, a shadow flashed in front of him. The speed was so fast that it made Kong Hai's skin crawl. Lei Jie's entire body flickered with azure lightning. Kong Hai wanted to escape, but every time, Lei Jie would block him. Kong Hai was fast, but Lei Jie was even faster. He was like a ghostly lightning. Kong Hai looked at the surging green lightning on Lei Jie's body in shock. That green lightning of his is a little strange. His speed is even faster than my heavenly sword escape technique. It's practically comparable to my sect's Great Tao heavenly sword. Shushan's Xiaozi sword artifact, Celerita's sword sect's instant sword escape, is only SSO. 5 golden hoops, or all 10 of them, Lei Jie said calmly, his voice like thunder. Kong Hai was unwilling. The time limit is almost up. How can I just give it to you for free? He made a hand seal, and a sharp sword chi that pierced through the heavens shot straight into the 9 heavens, as if it was a path to heaven. His body and sword became one, intending to attack Lei Jie. This time, however, he wasn't trying to escape. Instead, he was trying to fight Lei Jie head-on to determine the victor. Lei Jie's expression didn't change as he formed a hand seal. Balls of azure lightning flew out from his body and condensed into a phantom image in midair. Under the pitch-black sky, dark clouds rolled and lightning flashed, as if the end of the world had arrived. An aura of great disaster, great destruction, and great suffering emanated from it. Thick lightning snakes twisted continuously, and the phantom image seemed to present a horrifying hell full of lightning. This was the Lei clan's secret, top-notch mystique, lightning purgatory. It threw opponents who dared to oppose it into a hell of lightning to suffer endless torture, never to be reincarnated. If it was just the lightning purgatory, although it was powerful, it was nothing to Kong Hai. His heavenly sword sect's sword arts were above the Lei clan's. However, it was different from ordinary lightning purgatory. Within the phantom image of the purgatory above Lei Jie's head, thousands of lightning bolts actually gradually condensed in the air, transforming into a roaring giant god of lightning. In the illusory sky, 9 mysterious auras faintly converged on the giant god of lightning, causing its power to grow stronger and stronger. Later on, the giant god of lightning actually showed signs of turning illusory into reality, as if it was about to become a real existence and descend into this world. Dazzling azure lightning lit up all over the giant god of lightning, clashing with Kong Hai, sending him flying along with his sword. Kong Hai's entire body was shaken to the point that his spiritual power was unstable, his spirit was shaken, and his blood and chi were in turmoil. He had actually been injured in that exchange just now. The giant god of lightning's body also collapsed, but it was not destroyed by Kong Hai. Instead, it transformed on its own, collapsing but not dissipating, turning into a sea of lightning that trapped Kong Hai. The lightning lashed at Kong Hai like whips, constantly whittling away at his spiritual power. Kong Hai was shocked. His heavenly sword escape's sharp spiritual power was actually on the verge of collapse under the bombardment of the opponent's azure lightning. If this continued for a long time, Lei Jie would definitely break through his defenses and use his lightning to destroy him. At this point, Kong Hai did not dare to continue stubbornly. He hurriedly called out, "I'll give you 5 golden hoops." Although he was a little cowardly, he still had 5 golden hoops left. It was not impossible for him to continue advancing. There was no mortal enmity between them, and it was not necessary to fight to the death. Perhaps an all-out attack could injure the opponent, but Kong Hai did not think that was necessary. Since Kong Hai was willing to hand over the 5 golden hoops, Lei Jie did not continue to force him. He took the 5 golden hoops and left. The golden number above his head also changed from 5 to 10. Kong Hai looked at the number 5 above his head and smiled wryly. This turn of events caught the spectators by surprise. Kong Hai, who had been proud of himself just a moment ago, had become someone else's bride in the blink of an eye. Apart from Lei Jie replacing Kong Hai in collecting the 10 golden hoops, there was another direct result of this sudden change, which was that Zhou Yuntsong, who had been slightly behind Kong Hai in time, advanced to the 3rd stage in 5th place. Lei Jie had only just obtained the golden hoops from Kong Hai, so he naturally fell behind Zhou Yuntsong. In the end, Lei Jie advanced to the 3rd stage in 6th place. In 7th place was Chu Yang, who had found the golden hoops he had hidden in the beginning. This dark horse who had stood out in the 2nd stage could be considered a dark horse to the very end, stunning everyone. Even if he did not have any performance in the 3rd stage, he could be considered to have made a name for himself in this Dharma assembly. Everyone's attention was focused on the illusion of light and shadow. Now there was only one advancing spot left, but it was still up in the air. Chapter 688. After Chu Yang successfully collected all 10 golden rings and advanced to the 3rd stage in 7th place, there was only one spot left to advance to the next stage. At the moment, the situation in the pocket dimension was still unclear. Because cultivators could snatch each other's golden rings, no one could guarantee that they would be able to advance to the next stage until the very last moment. Even if they collected all 10 golden rings, they would need to survive the last 15 minutes to be able to use them to their fullest potential. Kong Hai was the best example. At the last moment, he was robbed by Lei Jie and could only bitterly continue searching for the golden rings. Zhu Yi's voice rang out at the same time in the Xianmen Tianzong True Disciple Room in the Spreading Law Hall, and in the Central Hall of the Cloud Peak. There are many unexpected situations, and it's hard to predict whether it's a blessing or a curse. Other than calmly facing it when it happens, you have to accumulate more experience and practice. Take this fellow Taoist Kong Hai from the Heavenly Sword sect as an example. His true strength isn't enough for him to collect all 10 golden rings so quickly, but he has his own advantage, which is that his movement technique is fast enough. That's why by chance, when others are fighting, he actually benefits from it. But his true strength is still lacking, so when his advantage in speed is gone, he can only give up his golden rings to Lei Jie, who is stronger in both speed and direct combat ability. Xiaoyan also smiled. To forge iron, one needs to be strong. Otherwise, even if one can live happily for a while, there will come a time when he hits a wall. The group of Xianmen Tianzong disciples nodded in agreement. After Xiaoyan and Zhu Yi finished their lecture, Yangqing smiled and said, "But this fellow Taoist Lei Jie's strength is also extraordinary. Although fellow Taoist Kong Hai is known for his speed, his strength isn't inferior to fellow Taoist Songqing Yuan from the Heavenpool sect and fellow Taoist Gu Lei from the Purple Cloud Taoist." Yu Hongyan also nodded and smiled. This Lei Jie is indeed extraordinary. I remember that the 9-Chi True Thunder Body is a top-notch lightning Dao cultivation physique. Zhu Yi said. Other than his innate bone frame, this person is also outstanding in other aspects. Although there were some accidental factors, his advancement isn't considered an underdog. Luo Qinggu smiled and said, "Senior brother Yi, who do you think will be the last one to advance?" Ing Rosa, Goldie, Murongyan Ran Wanqiu, and Luo He are not among these 5. Zhu Yi smiled. Originally, there should have been no suspense. However, the affairs of the world are unpredictable. As for who it will be, that will depend on fate. Shi Jingyun of the Great Qin dynasty also had high hopes, but after what happened just now, he doesn't have a single gold ring left. It's going to be very difficult. Luo Qinggu and the rest nodded. At this moment, in the illusory scene of light and shadow, a few people appeared. The numbers above their heads were bigger, which meant that they had many golden hoops and were in the lead. Huang Jinting had 6 golden rings, Ying Luoza had 9, Murong Yanran had 6, Zhuge Wanqiu had 7, and Purple Cloud Dao Luo he had 6. They were the 5 people who had the most golden rings in the small world right now. However, Huang Jinting was in a bit of trouble now. He was being targeted by Shi Jingyan and Shi Shaoqian. The little princess was first ambushed by Fan Xiefeng, and then benefited from Chu Yang. She was in a bad mood. When she saw Huang Jinting, it was as if she had seen her enemy. Her eyes reddened, and when she saw the huge golden number 6 above Goldie's head, she did not hesitate to attack. Shi Shaoqian and Goldie did not have much interaction, but the 6 golden rings in Goldie's hands were undoubtedly very attractive to him, so he immediately attacked. Huang Jinting was entangled by them. Seeing that neither of them had golden numbers above their heads, he did not want to bother. Although he had the temperament of a child, he knew that getting results in the spell assembly was more important. However, after being entangled by Shi Jingyun and Shi Shaoqian for a long time, and even seeing a Qiongqi slip past him, Goldie's temper flared, and the 3 of them immediately fought. Inside the All Heavens Hall, Xiao Yan and the others looked at Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi showed a rare bitter smile and shook his head. Goldie, I'm afraid we won't make it in time. If Shi Jingyan and the others had golden rings, Huang Jinting would at least gain something if he won. Now it would be a waste of time. If Shi Jingyan and the others won, they would get 6 golden rings from Huang Jinting. If Huang Jinting won, he would get nothing. Other than Huang Jinting, the other disciple of Xianmen Tianzong, Zhuge Wanqiu, was also in trouble. Zhuge Wanqiu had 7 golden rings on her body. To others, she was undoubtedly a big fish, so many people came to attack her. Facing the attacks of 3 opponents, Zhuge Wanqiu was still handling them with ease, but her mind was a little uneasy. Not far away, a man dressed in a different tribe's attire was staring at them silently, as if he was observing his prey and waiting for an opportunity to attack. There was a scar on the man's right shoulder. It was obvious that he had gone through a big battle. The golden number 2 above his head indicated that he had 2 golden rings on his body. The man did not attack Zhuge Wanqiu, but he did not have any intention of helping her either. It was as if he was waiting for the 3 people to exhaust Zhuge Wanqiu's magic power and spirit. Zhuge Wanqiu looked at the wound on the man's shoulder, and her heart skipped a beat. This injury seems to be caused by Irosa. As if noticing Zhuge Wanqiu's gaze, the man laughed coldly. The 3 people attacking Zhuge Wanqiu also noticed the man, and felt a little uneasy. The Northern Militant Royal Court and Xianmen Tianzong had always been close. My name is Zhuolei. You definitely don't know me. The man looked at Zhuge Wanqiu and grinned, but no matter how you looked at it, there was a hint of cruelty in it. However, it is enough that you know Irosa. Zhuge Wanqiu's heart sank. Senior Irosa and I are from the same sect, so of course I know him. The Northern Militant Zhuolei laughed coldly. You don't just know him, right? Don't say that I'm not blind. Even a blind person can see that lowly slave's affection for you. Zhuge Wanqiu frowned. Brother from the Northern Militant Royal Court, our sects have always been on good terms. Aren't your words a little rude? Zhuolei looked up and laughed. An escaped slave who shot his own master. Do you think that you can change your skin by entering Xianmen Tianzong? Dream on. He pointed at Zhuge Wanqiu and laughed cruelly. That lowly slave shot my father, so I will definitely make him pay the price today. You are his lover, so I will start with you. Although I can't really do anything to you in this small world, I can still make you suffer. As he spoke, the blood in his body exploded and he rushed toward Zhuge Wanqiu. Zhuolei was stronger than the other 3. As soon as he joined the battle, the pressure on Zhuge Wanqiu immediately increased. In the All Heavens Hall, the Northern Militant First Chanyu's eyes narrowed, and he turned to look at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was calm and waved his hand slightly. The personal grudges of the younger generation should be settled by the younger generation. First Chanyu need not worry about it, and I will not take it to heart. In the small world, Zhuolei's moves were ruthless as he tried to get close to Zhuge Wanqiu. He was a martial arts cultivator, while Zhuge Wanqiu was a pure spell cultivator. Once he got close, the situation would become disadvantageous for Zhuge Wanqiu. However, at this moment, A sharp black light came from afar and immediately forced Zhuo to retreat. Zhuo had suffered under the black light before, so he did not hesitate and immediately retreated. However, one of the cultivators who surrounded Zhuge Wanqiu was not so lucky and did not dodge in time. The black light flashed and directly triggered the protective barrier of the Hongfa Hall. The remaining two people turned pale with fright and hurriedly tried to retreat, but it was no longer up to them. Zhuge Wanqiu, who had been on the defensive, immediately counterattacked. Spell after spell came rolling over, preventing her opponents from escaping. As one of the top disciples in the desolate Sky Valley, Zhuge Wanqiu's magical power and divine power were quite extraordinary. However, her personality was more passive and conservative, and she was used to defending and counterattacking. Just now, Zhuo had been watching from the side, and she was not completely confident, so she slowly dragged it out with her opponent. However, now she could attack without worry. Zhuo was no longer a threat. This was because a dark-skinned young man was approaching quickly from afar. It was Iroza. Iroza sneered and looked at Zhuo. Zhuo, look at you now. Where is the pride of a grassland wolf? You escaped from me, and now you want to hit on a woman. You are worse than a stray dog. I don't even want to kill you now. You will only dirty my hands for nothing. Zhuo's eyes were filled with shame and anger. He said angrily, "You escaped slave who killed your master. Do you think that you can change everything by worshipping under the Xianmen Tianzong? A lowly slave will always be a lowly slave. You shot my father, so I will make you pay." Iroza smiled carelessly, revealing his white teeth. "That's right. My father, my mother, and I were once your tribe's slaves. However, were we born to be slaves? My family was originally a herdsman. We fled the famine and joined your tribe. However, we were forced to be slaves by your family. Because you worshipped under the king to learn martial arts, no one dared to interfere." Iroza's eyes were cold. "I killed your father, but if he hadn't whipped my father and mother to death, I would have run away if I had the chance. How could I have rewarded him with that knife?" Iroza opened his arms as if he was embracing the world. "I like my sect. I am grateful to it for allowing me to be where I am today. However, I like this place not only because it has given me so many things, but also because I simply like it here. Because I like one of the rules here." Iroza let out a long howl. "Anyone who owes us must pay back. If you dare to not pay back, we will beat you until you pay back." Iroza pointed at Zhuo. "To be honest, your family still owes me a life. I only kill the culprit and don't care about anything else. That is why I did not return to the grassland after becoming a disciple of my sect and starting a massacre. However, you provoked me today. Do you think you can escape a second time? The magical power restriction of the Great Law Hall can protect your life, but it can't protect your other belongings." As he spoke, Iroza had already pounced at Zhuo. In an instant, he was already in front of Zhuo. Zhuo had been lucky enough to escape from Iroza's knife. Now he wanted to escape again, but he was already injured and could not do so. He was trapped by Iroza. In the Great Hall of All Heavens, Luo Qingwu watched this scene and frowned slightly. This person is truly despicable, but has he lost his mind? Not to mention that he dares to be so impudent on our sect's Jade Capital Mountain. They are all in the Great Law Hall now. He can't really hurt Iroza, Wanqiu, and the others. Even if he harbors hatred, he should find another opportunity. By doing this now, other than exposing his own intentions, what else can he do? Zhu Yi's expression was calm as he stared at the illusion of light and shadow. He used his magical power to transmit his voice to her. "Junior sister, don't be impatient." "Oh." Luo Qingwu turned her head and glanced at Zhu Yi. She rolled her eyes and did as she was told. She calmed down and waited for any changes. Chapter 689. Previously, Zhuo had once joined hands with others to attack Iroza, and was injured by him. Zhuo was quick to seize the opportunity, and decisively abandoned the others to escape. But this time he could not escape. The second most vicious incident of this spell exchange had occurred. Zhuo had one of his arms and one of his legs cut off by Iroza, becoming a complete cripple. As a martial cultivator, His future was undoubtedly ruined. The people of the other factions were all discussing this. These two vicious incidents with serious consequences were both committed by Xianmen Tianzong's disciples. This inevitably caused others to mutter in their hearts, feeling that Xianmen Tianzong's style was too tyrannical. On the contrary, the cultivators of the northern militant court did not show any dissatisfaction. Most people looked at Zhuo Lei with disdain, and some even felt awkward and ashamed. Strictly speaking, Irosa was also considered a northern militant person. In the eyes of the northern militant court's cultivators, his personal grievances with Zhuo Lei were not a big deal. On the contrary, Zhuo Lei was unable to defeat Irosa, so he went to find trouble with Zhuge Wanqiu. This made many northern militant people feel ashamed. When the tribes of the grasslands fought, it was common for them to rob women and children. When it came to hunting, the result was everything. No matter the means, as long as they won. However, private duels between martial cultivators were seen as a battle between the brave and the strong. Harming others and kidnapping hostages were all things that only the weak would do. Even the northern militant chief Chanyu did not express any dissatisfaction. He did not think that the northern militant court had been slapped in the face by Xianmen Tianzong, but rather that Zhuo Lei had smeared their name. Some cultivators who were familiar with the northern militant people could also see this point. They did not think that this matter would cause a rift between Xianmen Tianzong and the northern militant court. However, some people who did not understand the situation began to let their imaginations run wild. Because of the precedent set by Zhou Yunsong, Xianmen Tianzong once again adopted the policy of not suing the officials and not investigating. In the miniature world, Irosa silently looked at Zhuo Lei, who was lying on the ground and staring at him with a venomous gaze. He grinned, his snow-white teeth seeming to flash with a cold light. After leaving the Great Law Hall, no matter when, I welcome you to find me again. But at that time, there will be no Great Law Hall to protect you. Irosa laughed. You should be thankful that you have 2 gold rings on you. For these 2 gold rings, I will give you a quick death. Otherwise, I will leave you here to fend for yourself. Zhuo Lei shouted, "You!" Just as he opened his mouth to speak, Ing Luo Zhao's palm was like a blade, chopping down. The Great Law Hall's mana restriction activated, sending Zhuo Lei out. On the other side, Zhuge Wanqiu had also finished off the remaining 2 opponents. Unfortunately, apart from Zhuo Lei, the others only had 1 golden ring on them. Irosa tossed one of the golden rings to her, and put away the other. The golden number above his head changed from 9 to 10. Zhuge Wanqiu smiled and said, "Congratulations, senior apprentice brother. You have collected all the golden rings." Irosa looked up and saw the number above her head change from 7 to 8, and then to 9. After a moment of silence, he said, "About 100 miles east of here, there is a valley. There is a golden ring buried under the largest pine tree in the forest in the valley. Go and retrieve it. We don't know how many people have advanced. If you hurry up, you might be able to make it. I will accompany you for the last 15 minutes. Zhuge Wanqiu was stunned. "Senior apprentice brother Irosa, you?" Irosa nodded. "I buried that golden ring. The first time I met Zhuo Lei, I only injured him and let him run away. He said that he would harm you. And from his expression, it didn't seem like he was lying. It seemed like he really had a way to find you. So I chased him all the way. Although this guy is as cowardly as a dog, he grew up in the grasslands. He is very good at tracking and anti-tracking. He just wanted to escape, so I chased him all the way here," Irosa said calmly. Irosa calmly said, "With 10 golden rings on me, I'll be teleported away in a quarter of an hour, so I dropped one. But fortunately, Zhuo Lei has 2 ready-made golden rings on him, so I don't have to specially go back. I will have to trouble you. I must get one of Zhuo Lei's golden rings immediately. Although I don't know how Su Yunxing's harvest is, I believe it won't be bad." Irosa pursed his lips. "I want to win against him." Zhuge Wanqiu looked at Irosa and mumbled after a long while. "Irosa, you don't have to do this. This is Hongfa Hall. Hongfa Hall can only save lives." Irosa interrupted her. "I just cut off one of that dog's hands, and one of his legs. I have confidence in your cultivation. Zhuo Lei, that trash is no match for you in a one-on-one fight. Even with the 3 people just now, Even if I didn't arrive, they wouldn't be able to do anything to you. But what if there are more enemies and a more dangerous environment? There are many dangers in this small world, and accidents are bound to happen. Us Xianmen Tianzong disciples are also the target of everyone, so I have to be careful. Irosa said, now that Zhuolei has been taken care of, even if we meet people from other sects, we might still be in danger, but we are much safer. Zhuge Wanqiu looked into Irosa's eyes. Senior brother Irosa, have you ever thought that during the time you were helping me, senior brother Su might have already advanced to the second stage? Irosa clenched his fists, but he remained silent and did not speak. Zhuge Wanqiu also did not speak, and silently walked side by side with Irosa, hurrying east. The golden numbers above their heads, 110 and the other 9, naturally attracted many people's attention, but they were all defeated by the two of them. It was a pity that these people did not have golden rings. Irosa suddenly stopped and looked at Zhuge Wanqiu saying, my time is up, it's up to you now. Be careful. Zhuge Wanqiu nodded. Senior brother, don't worry, I'll be fine. In the next moment, the golden numbers above Irosa's head suddenly dispersed, turning into a golden pillar of light that enveloped Irosa. The top of the pillar of light shot straight into the sky, and Irosa's body automatically floated up into the sky under the guidance of the pillar of light. Once enveloped by the pillar of light, the cultivator would not be able to leave the pillar, and the people outside would not be able to attack the cultivator within the pillar of light. Zhuge Wanqiu looked at his departing figure in a daze, and faintly sighed. Senior brother, you really didn't have to do this. In the All Heavens Hall, Xiaoyan Wanglin and the rest of the disciples congratulated Zhu Yi, congratulating him for having two of his disciples advance to the final third stage and obtain a place in the top 8. Although there were many twists and turns, in the end, Irosa still obtained the last place. Xiaoyan smiled. Second junior brother, congratulations. Zhu Yi smiled faintly. Quite a lot of tricks. Unconcerned, Xiaoyan smiled. Even if everything went according to plan, at most there would be some changes in the final ranking, but the candidates are basically as expected. Other than the dark horse from beyond Heaven Mountain, the top 8 is basically within our range of expectations. However, it is a pity that little junior brother's disciples, little Huang and Wanqiu, third junior brother's disciple Xingluan, and Taishu Temple's disciple Fan Xiefeng are all people who have the strength to fight for the top 8. Wang Lin said, the first and second stages of the assessment set by Master are more likely to be accidental, but this is actually the test of the juniors' comprehensive strength, and also the best way to train them. The affairs of the world are always changing, and there will always be many accidents. Yu Hongyan smiled. However, the next third stage can finally let them breathe a sigh of relief. None of her disciples could advance to the third stage. Ku Jing was besieged in the Starry Sky Pagoda, and accidentally touched the starlight circulation restriction, so she was forced to turn back and wasted too much time. As a result, her group did not manage to squeeze into the top 8 of the first stage, and lost the qualification to participate in the second stage. Zhao Huan, on the other hand, was delayed because of guardian Zhou Yinsong. Although the two of them tried their best to catch up, in the end, they only managed to catch the last train, and narrowly obtain the 8th place in the first stage, obtaining the qualification to enter the second stage. However, because they entered the miniature world too late, although Zhao Huan's strength was quite good, her starting point was still far behind the others. Until now, she had only just obtained her 4th golden ring. However, Yu Hongyan did not care too much about this. Her idea was very simple. She would find problems and oversights, learn from them, and go back to double the training of her disciples who loved to slack off. As Xiao Yan and the others teased each other, Li Yuanfeng turned to look at Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled and nodded. Li Yuanfeng used her transcendence energy to transmit her voice to Shi Tianhao, who was in charge of the spreading law hall. Tianhao, it's done. Shi Tianhao clasped his palms together, and a dozen light pillars immediately descended from the miniature world, covering the remaining people in it. Initially, there were almost 40 people who entered. After eliminating the top 8, there were less than 20 people left. There were also more than a dozen people who died in the miniature world. Some were besieged by Qiongqi at the beginning, and some were sent out when competing with other cultivators for the golden rings. When Rosa came out of the miniature world, he found out that he was actually the 8th place. Not only was he not happy, but his expression was gloomy, especially when he found out that Su Yunxing was the 1st place. Rosa's originally dark face turned even darker. Zhuge Wanqiu and the remaining people were sent out of the miniature world by Shi Tianhao. After understanding the situation, the group of Xianmen Tianzong disciples felt sorry for her. Zhuge Wanqiu, on the other hand, was more open-minded and did not care much. Instead, she even comforted Huang Jinting. Everyone looked at the top 8, especially when they saw Zhou Yunsong and Chu Yang. Those who had not seen them before were extremely shocked. Su Yunxing, Dao Yuding, and the others also looked up and down at Zhou Yunsong. This was also the first time they knew that their junior brother Zhou was so hidden. Shi Tianhao came in front of everyone and said with a smile, "Let's first distribute the rewards for the 2nd stage. Everyone in the top 8 will have a reward, but the rewards will be different. The higher the ranking, the better the reward." The most eye-catching reward was undoubtedly the Yuanying realm magic tool that Su Yunxing had obtained. Many young cultivators in the Spreading Law Hall looked at this scene enviously. Not to mention anything else, with this reward, even if Su Yunxing immediately forfeited the competition, he would have already earned a lot. On the other hand, although Su Yunxing and the other 7 people were also happy to obtain the generous reward, they all quickly put away their rewards and focused on Shi Tianhao. Their minds were now completely focused on the 3rd stage. What a joke, they had already reached this step. Who wouldn't want to be the person who came out on top in the end? Seeing this, Shi Tianhao smiled with satisfaction. The 8 of you have obtained the qualifications to advance to the 3rd stage. This time, it will not be difficult for you. The 3rd stage is the arena battle. The 8 of you will fight one-on-one, and the winner will advance. Previously, before the 2nd stage began, your final ranking in the 2nd stage will also affect the 3rd stage. Chapter 690. Shi Tianhao looked at Su Yunxing's group of 8 in front of him, and formed a seal with both hands. With a change of magic power, the small world and the starry sky pagoda disappeared. The scene in front of everyone in the Spreading Law Hall turned into an upper and lower space again. The lower space was still completely dark and not activated. Only the upper space was open to everyone. The top 8 of the 2nd stage will fight in reverse order according to the order of passing the test, Shi Tianhao said. The 1st will fight against the 8th, the 2nd will fight against the 7th, and so on. At the same time, the side with the higher ranking will have the right to decide the type of venue. Whether it was Su Yunxing's group of 8 or the spectating cultivators, they were all slightly moved when they heard this news. Compared to fighting in reverse order, the 2nd point was actually the biggest advantage for the side with the higher ranking. The cultivators participating in the spell gathering were all in the golden elixir period and foundation building stage. In the process of fighting, if one side had an obvious geographical advantage, it would greatly increase their strength and might even cause the balance of victory to be unbalanced. However, this was decided from the beginning, and it was also the reward that the winner of the 2nd stage deserved, so no one raised any objections. Everyone began to ponder. The 1st against the 8th, that senior brother Su against senior brother Rosa? Huang Jinting became spirited. The 2 of them are going against each other so quickly. This match is going to be interesting. A layer of worry appeared on Zhuge Wanqiu's face. Rosa's previous gloominess was instantly swept away, and he became full of fighting spirit and spirit. Su Yunxing was still as calm as Mount Tai, and his expression did not change. The 2nd against the 7th, senior sister Yuding against the Beyond Sky Mountains. What's his name again? Huang Jinting scratched his head in embarrassment. Zhuge Wanqiu came back to her senses and said, Chu Yang. Yes, senior sister Yuding against that Chu Yang from the Beyond Sky Mountain. Huang Jinting nodded. The 3rd against the 6th. In the central hall of the Cloud Peak, a youth silently looked at Lei Jie in the light and shadow illusion and murmured, the 3rd against the 6th, Taishu Temple's Chun Xingyu against the Lei clan's Lei Jie. 4th versus 5th, Tong Er versus Yin Song. In the all-heaven Great Hall, Xiao Yan, who was talking cheerfully and wittily a moment ago, had a bitter expression on his face. Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and the others also had helpless expressions on their faces as they looked at their eldest senior brother with sympathy. In the eyes of others, this last group was another civil war in Xianmen Tianzong. Many people were gloating. Xianmen Tianzong had set their own rules, and this time, they had dug a hole for themselves. There were many cultivators from various sects participating in this Dharma exchange. Although Xianmen Tianzong had the largest number of people as a single force, it was the minority overall. However, in the end, Xianmen Tianzong was still as strong as before. In the end, they occupied 5 spots in the top 8, including Zhuge Wanqiu, Li Xingfei, Huang Jinting, and the others who had the strength to make it to the top 8. Xianmen Tianzong might even have the chance to make it to the top 8. Such a domineering and strong performance was really eye-catching. It reminded Dao Master Chang'e, Huaxiu, Sword Master Solar, Sword Master Flowing Light, and the others of the Desolate Sea Dharma Assembly. In this Dharma exchange, Su Yunsheng and the others did not display the overwhelming and despair-inducing might that Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao did in the past. However, compared to the Desolate Sea Dharma Assembly, Xianmen Tianzong only had Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao participating in the competition during the Golden Elixir period. In this Kunlun Mountain Dharma Assembly, Xianmen Tianzong showed an endless stream of talents and a strong and broad foundation. This brought a different kind of pressure to the other sections. However, because of the rules, although 5 people from Xianmen Tianzong advanced to the top 8, 2 internal fights broke out in the first round. Lin Feng looked at this scene with interest. He did not mind that 2 of his disciples were destined to be eliminated in the first round. Since the rules were set, everyone should abide by them. In general, the top 8 candidates were basically within his expectations. Unlike Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and the others, who also regarded Chu Yang as an unexpected dark horse, Lin Feng had mentally predicted that Chu Yang would be in the top 8 when he first participated in the Dharma exchange. As for the specific ranking after the second stage and the final results of the Dharma assembly, it was hard to say. After all, there were many variables. In Lin Feng's expectations, Zhou Yunsong, Chen Xingyu, Chu Yang, Dao Yuding, Su Yunsheng, and Ying Luozi were basically in the bag. Lin Tong, Huang Jinting, Zhuge Wanqiu, Li Xingfei, Lei Jia, Fan Xiefeng, and Shi Jingyan competed for the remaining 2 spots. In the end, Lin Tong and Lei Jia successfully broke through. Lin Feng's expectations for Lin Tong and Huang Jinting were slightly lower. It was not because he had no confidence in their abilities, but because their temperaments were unstable. Their performance fluctuated too much, and was full of accidental factors. From a certain point of view, the Great Qin dynasty's Shi Jingyan was also this type of person. Looking at the final results, Xiao Tong's luck was not bad. She had encountered 2 waves of people who came to her door with gifts, so she accepted them with a smile. Not only did she successfully advance, she even obtained 4th place. As for Huang Jinting, he was the kind of person who encountered accidents. However, Lin Tong's luck had also come to an end. In reality, after Zhou Yunsong successfully advanced to 5th place, the carefree Xiao Yan did not pay too much attention. However, Lin Feng was already shaking his head with a smile. In the top 8, Tong can actually put up a fight against anyone, but she's afraid of encountering Xiao Qingzi's disciple, Zhou Yunsong. Let Tong randomly pick 2 people from the top 8. It'll be easier for her to fight 1 against 2 than fighting Yunsong. This time, Lin Tong had encountered her nemesis. If there was one person in the top 8 who could definitely defeat her, it would be Zhou Yunsong. When she faced Zhou Yunsong, it was like the Taishu Temple disciple, Ding Runfeng, who had a pure yang body, encountered Zhou Yunsong. She was completely countered. Perhaps Zhou Yunsong himself did not care, but objectively speaking, the opponents he liked to meet the most were people like Lin Tong and Ding Runfeng. Cultivators who cultivated in fire-type Dao techniques and divine abilities needed to have at least 2 great true fires in hand. Relying on the complementary power of the 2 fires, only then would they be able to fight against Zhou Yunsong's burning yang body, who was at the same level. However, they would only not be countered. They would no longer be at a disadvantage, and could finally fight on equal grounds. Who would win and who would lose would involve many factors, and the outcome would only be known after they truly fought. However, the 7 great true fires were one of the most violent forces in the world, and it was very difficult for them to coexist in the same person's body. Cultivating more than one kind of true fire at the same time was easier said than done. Extraordinary talents like Xiao Yan were, after all, extremely rare. They also needed the support of a top-notch Dao technique, like the heavenly Dao scripture. Even this Xiao Yan had suffered a lot when he cultivated it in the past. Little Lin Tong was talented and had a deep foundation, so there was some hope. However, if she, who was only at the foundation establishment stage and only had a pure young true fire, went to fight with Zhou Yunsong, she would only be sending herself to death. If Tong, and Yunsong were to fight against the third person, the difference in their performance wouldn't be too big. However, if the two of them were to fight against each other, the current Tong, might lose. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. It was precisely because of this that Xiao Yan couldn't help but frown. Yang Qing also smiled bitterly again and again, not knowing what to say. In the spreading law hall, Yan Wuwei, who didn't know the situation, was still muttering. Junior Marshal Brother Zhou, that taciturn gourd, is really a real person who doesn't show his true colors. He actually made it into the top 8. When he first ascended the Starry Sky Pagoda, it was a lot later. However, don't look down on Junior Marshal's sister because she is young, she is very strong. Junior Marshal Brother Zhou shouldn't be her opponent. Our Burning Heaven Cliff disciples can make it into the top 4. Lu Xiaofeng, who was beside Yan Wuwei, turned his head and looked at him. His strange gaze made Yan Wuwei's hair stand on end. Lu Xiaofeng smiled bitterly and said, "Meeting Su Yunxing and Ing Luozha, meeting Senior Marshal Sister Yu Ting, and that Taishu Temple's Chun Xingyu. Hi, let's put it this way, no matter who she meets in the top 8, I have confidence in Junior Marshal Sister. Only meeting Yin Song. We can only blame our bad luck." Yan Wuwei was dumbfounded. "Brother Feng Yu," Lu Xiaofeng said. Junior Marshal Brother Zhou innately restrains cultivators who cultivate in Yang attribute Dao techniques. Whether it is my true Sunfire or Junior Marshal Sister's pure Yang True Fire, it is the same. Yan Wuwei asked curiously, "Brother Feng, how do you know?" Lu Xiaofeng didn't answer but asked, "Haven't you been wondering that my strength didn't improve compared to the cave-dwelling competition 3 months ago? Instead, it has regressed?" Yan Wuwei nodded in confusion. Lu Xiaofeng opened his palm. "Not long ago, I pulled Junior Marshal Brother Zhou to compete with me. In the end, I suffered a crushing defeat. More than half of the true Sunfire that I cultivated was destroyed by him. This was even under the situation where he desperately held back. Otherwise, I would have cultivated the great sun-brilliant heaven Dao Canon all these years for nothing." Yan Wuwei was dumbfounded and couldn't say a word. Shi Tianhao's voice continued to sound in his ears. "The third stage will naturally have a reward. The first place will be qualified to be baptized by the primordial starlight." As soon as this was said, the reaction was not very strong. Most people, including the 8 people in front of Shi Tianhao, had a confused expression on their faces. They didn't understand what this reward meant. Shi Tianhao didn't explain further and continued. "From the 2nd to the 4th place, the disciples of our sect will be given the opportunity to enter the Xiantian Eternal Light Grotto Heaven to cultivate. Fellow Taoists from other sects will be given the right to enter the Xiantian realm freely. Those who lose in the first round, don't be discouraged. There will be a reward too." Shi Tianhao smiled slightly. "Those who lose in the first round will be given a chance to challenge one of the 8 of us. You can choose any one of us. We can learn from each other's Dao techniques. It can also be considered as helping each other." Shi Tianhao stuck out his thumb and pointed at his nose. He smiled and said, "For example, you can challenge me. All 4 of you can choose me and take turns." Shi Tianhao's words were polite, but the spreading law hall was instantly stirred. The fame of the direct disciple of the profound gates master had already spread far and wide. Su Yunsheng and the other 7 people didn't have much of a reaction. They were still aiming for the top 4. Not to mention the reward, the reputation was completely different. Only Chu Yang's eyes flickered slightly, and he was a little distracted. Chapter 691. Chu Yang's purpose in participating in this spell assembly was very clear. He wanted to show his face and leave an impression on everyone, especially on the celestial sect of Mystic Gate. This would make it easier for his Beyond Heaven Mountain and the celestial sect of Mystic Gate to deepen their relationship in the future. Since he wanted to leave an impression, he had to leave a good one. He had to be in the limelight and have a good reputation, but he couldn't let a guest steal the limelight. Chu Yang had his own pride as a person, and he was also hot-blooded and ambitious. However, his special experiences had made him more cool-headed and more pragmatic. He did not fight for a moment's fame. Thus, Chu Yang had a rough idea of what to do after participating in the spell assembly. It was about time for him to stop while he was ahead. Based on his performance in the second stage, he had already achieved his expected goal. After all, there were still many coincidental factors in the first and second stages. The third stage was a competition of strength, especially since his first opponent was the only golden elixir period cultivator of Xianmen Tianzong's second generation, Dao Yuding. She was very powerful. Whether or not he could beat her was another matter. If he really wanted to fight her head-on, Chu Yang would undoubtedly have to use his true skills. That wouldn't be something that could be deceived with 1 or 2 tokens. And he would definitely expose many of his secrets. With so many big shots watching from above, it was fine if Chu Yang didn't make a move, but once he did, there was no way he could hide it. In fact, Chu Yang had sufficient reason to suspect that even if it was just a few tokens, it might cause some people to think that they would rather kill the wrong person than let him go. Under such circumstances, continuing to be high profile would only result in him courting death. Chu Yang had already considered everything before participating in the spell assembly, so he had to decisively hide his abilities. This had been Chu Yang's plan all along. Now, Shi Tianhao's announcement of the reward had brought him a pleasant surprise. A chance to challenge. Chu Yang took a deep breath and composed himself, stabilizing his state of mind. Shi Tianhao's gaze swept across the faces of the 8 people participating in the third stage. We'll proceed in reverse order. 4th and 5th, step forward first. The others returned to their respective quiet rooms to rest and watch the battle, leaving only Lin Tong and Zhou Yunsong in the arena. The little girl looked curiously at her opponent. Those who already understood Zhou Yunsong's background looked at little Lin Tong with sympathy. The little girl's strength was outstanding, but unfortunately she was a bit unlucky. In Marquis Jinghuan's private room, Xiang Heng and Wang Le, who had already returned, stared at Zhou Yunsong. Xiang Heng said in a deep voice, "It seems to be this Zhou Yunsong, but I didn't expect him to join Yang Qing's sect instead of Xiao Yan's." Wang Le nodded. "Actually, we should have thought of it. He's learning from Xiao Yan, so it's easier for him to go berserk, and his power will backfire on him." Marquis Jinghuan held a folding fan in his right hand. He closed it and lightly tapped it against his left palm. His eyes flashed. "So that's how it is. Is the burning yang constitution what the Grandmaster wants? To be able to survive the spontaneous combustion of the burning yang physique is indeed rare." He turned his head to look at Xiang Heng and Wang Le. "What does Great Master need the blazing sun body for?" Xiang Heng and Wang Le shook their heads. "To tell you the truth, Lord Marquis, we really don't know. We are only following the Grandmaster's orders." Pretending to be mysterious, "You've made this Marquis rather interested." Marquis Jinghuan chuckled, but it caused Xiang Heng and Wang Li's expressions to change. They knew that this Marquis was the epitome of a lawless person who did things without the slightest scruples. Marquis Jinghuan pointed at them with his folding fan and smiled. "Relax. This Marquis is just saying, I don't have the time to deal with such trivial matters. The great Zhou has been pressing me for the atlas. This Marquis's thoughts are all on this matter. It's giving me a headache." Although Marquis Jinghuan said this, there was no nervousness on his face. Xiang Heng and Wang Le fell silent. After a long while, Wang Le whispered, "The two of us are only responsible for running errands. I'm afraid we won't be able to bear the heavy responsibility of carrying Lord Marquis's words." Marquis Jinghuan smiled indifferently. "Of course this Marquis knows. This Marquis will personally tell the Grandmaster about this matter. I have no intention of asking you to carry any messages." Whatever the Grandmaster orders you to do, just do it. However, if anything goes wrong, you will bear the consequences yourself. Xiang Heng and Wang Lu nodded. Of course. Their gazes once again focused on Zhou Yunsong in the arena, their eyes flashing. Su Yunxing returned to the Qiantian Hall's quiet room. Sun Shuer, Yang Tai, and the other disciples all congratulated him on taking first place in the second stage. Su Yunxing returned their greetings one by one before asking about the others. Inside the Starry Sky Pagoda and the small world, the cultivators participating in the spell assembly naturally had no way of knowing the overall situation. Senior brother Ing Rosa barely managed to take 8th place. In fact, he had already gathered all 10 golden rings. If nothing unexpected happened, he should be in the top 3. It's a pity that he spent too much time on senior sister Zhuge. Sun Shuer shook her head and sighed. It's also a pity for senior sister Zhuge. She was in 9th place, just a little bit away. After hearing this, Su Yunxing's expression did not change. After sitting for a while, he stood up and walked out of the room, arriving outside the desolate Sky Valley's quiet room. He did not open the door and stood outside like a statue. After a long silence, he finally turned around and left. Just as he turned around, he saw a gentle girl walking toward him. It was Zhuge Wanqiu. Zhuge Wanqiu saw Su Yunxing and was slightly stunned. Senior brother Su. Su Yunxing opened his mouth and paused for a moment before saying softly, "It's a pity that you almost made it into the top 8. Yes, I still need to work hard." Zhuge Wanqiu replied with a smile, and tilted her head slightly to look at Su Yunxing. Su Yunxing was silent for a moment before saying, "Everyone, let's work hard together." After saying that, he walked forward and brushed past Zhuge Wanqiu. The battle between junior brother Zhou and junior sister Lin is about to begin. Watch carefully and I believe you will gain something. Zhuge Wanqiu stood where she was and silently watched his back, until Su Yunxing disappeared from her sight. After a long while, she shook her head and sighed softly. She turned around and returned to the quiet room. Su Yunxing also returned to the room where the Qiantian Palace disciples gathered. As soon as he entered, he saw Ing Rosa sitting there and staring intently at Zhou Yunsong, and Lin Tong in the illusion of light and shadow. Su Yunxing looked at Ing Rosa and his eyes moved slightly, but he quickly regained his calmness. Junior sister Lin Tong chose such a place as the battlefield. Her strength must have increased by at least 50%. Ing Rosa suddenly said without turning his head. In such an environment, neither you nor I are her match. Su Yunxing looked up, and saw that the arena had already turned into a sea of pure white flames. The flames were blazing and the aura was monstrous. Lin Tong was ranked 4th while Zhou Yunsong was ranked 5th. Thus, Lin Tong was the one who decided the environment of the arena. The little girl did not hold back at all, and directly turned the entire arena into a sea of pure yang fire. Su Yunxing nodded. In such an environment, I am not junior sister Lin Tong's match. But I feel that junior sister Lin Tong is most likely going to lose. Sun Shuer mumbled. Su Yunxing and Ing Rosa looked at her strangely. Sun Shuer hurriedly told them about Zhou Yunsong's previous performance, especially how his burning sun vitality breaker destroyed Yang Likuan's red lotus karmic fire, like boiling soup splashing snow. Su Yunxing and Ing Rosa looked at each other, and then at Yang Tai and the others. They saw the group of junior brothers nodding in unison. In the All Heavens Great Hall, Lin Feng could not help but shake his head and laugh when he saw Lin Tong choose this arena. My little Tong, you're really too naive. Xiaoyan also smiled bitterly. However, the two of them did not remind Lin Tong in advance. The little girl's temperament was immature and innocent. If she walked outside, it would be very easy for her to suffer losses. So, they just treated this as giving her some experience. Shi Tianhao was watching from the side. Even if Zhou Yunsong used the burning sun vitality breaker, there would not be any big accidents. The development of the situation was not out of Lin Feng and his disciples' expectations. Little Lin Tong had hit a wall. Zhou Yunsong's violent burning sun vitality breaker was fighting against her pure yang fire. With Lin Tong's home ground advantage, it was difficult for her to make any progress in a short time. However, he only released a little bit of the burning sun vitality breaker's aura, which immediately caused the little girl's beautiful face to turn pale. The little girl did not have much experience in fighting with others, but she was very talented. She was extremely sensitive to the concept of the burning sun vitality breaker's power. Like a mouse seeing a cat, or a rabbit seeing a wolf, she felt the pressure of a natural enemy. A black light flashed on Zhou Yunsong's body, which immediately destroyed a large part of the sea of pure yang fire in the arena. Such a large-scale destruction of the fire made the power of his burning sun vitality breaker further increase, and there were even faint signs of it going out of control. Lin Tong's own pure yang fire was not damaged. She could clearly feel her helplessness in facing this opponent, so she could only unwillingly admit defeat. It was only at this moment that the cultivators who participated in the second stage truly saw how terrifying Zhou Yunsong was. Although there was a natural restraint factor, Zhou Yunsong's strong performance still made everyone feel pressure. Ying Rose's eyes were fixed on Zhou Yunsong in the arena, and he did not speak for a long time. Su Yunxing's gaze was not as aggressive as Ying Rose's, but all of his attention was on Zhou Yunsong, and he kept imagining what would happen if he were in Lin Tong's position. Ying Rosa, do you know what I'm thinking right now? Suddenly, Su Yunxing used his transcendence energy to transmit his voice to Ying Rosa. Ying Rosa did not move, and his eyes were still fixed on Zhou Yunsong. Su Yunxing did not mind and said to himself, I'm thinking that you and I are both very laughable. Ying Rosa was silent. He understood what Su Yunxing meant. Ever since they entered the sect, the two of them had been constantly fighting for the position of number one among the second-generation disciples. In fact, they had always been the two most outstanding second-generation disciples, and they could be said to be the brightest of time. Ying Rosa was even more arrogant, and he did not care about Li Xingfei, Lu Xiaofeng, and the others. Among the cultivators of the same generation, he had always set his sights on Su Yunxing. On the other hand, although Su Yunxing was usually modest and polite, he was also extremely arrogant. Disregarding other aspects, just in terms of cultivation, how could he not view Ying Rosa as his only rival? This situation continued until Dao Yuding entered the sect, but Dao Yuding was already in the late stage of foundation establishment the moment she entered the sect. Her situation was very special, and although Su Yunxing and Ying Rosa respected her, they did not think that they were inferior to Dao Yuding at the same level. Although little Lin Tong had been specially nurtured by Lin Feng and Xiao Yan to be able to cultivate the Tao of the human race, he was still a spirit monster, and his situation was also special. But today, Zhou Yunsong's appearance had a huge impact on Su Yunxing and Ying Rosa. Inside the All Heavens Palace, Zhui swept out with his divine sense and discovered the shocked state of his disciples. Chapter 692. Zhui could easily understand what Su Yunxing and Ying Rosa were thinking. Zhou Yunsong's dominance not only hit the confidence of the young cultivators from the other forces, but also hit his own fellow disciples. This was also a test for Su Yunxing and Ying Rosa. If they could stabilize their state of mind, adjust their mentality, and turn the pressure into motivation, they might be able to take a step further, dig out more potential, and look forward to a higher future. Therefore, whether it was Lin Feng or Zhui, they were actually happy to see this happen. As one of the people involved, Zhou Yunsong didn't feel anything about it. Right now, all his energy was used to suppress his mana that was about to go out of control again. Fortunately, Shi Tianhao was right next to him and could give him a hand. Meanwhile, little Lin Tong was like an eggplant that had been hit by frost. She listlessly came to the quiet room where Xiao Zhener was. As soon as she entered the room, she was like an injured little beast as she softly said, "Mother, Tong are lost." Xiao Zhener smiled and pulled her into her arms. "It's just a spar between fellow disciples, don't worry about the outcome." Little Lin Tong pouted. "I still want to enter the top 4 and bring glory to Daddy." Xiao Zhener scratched her little nose and said with a smile, "No matter what your results are, Big Brother Xiao Yan and I will be proud of you. We never give you any pressure. We just want you to live a relaxed and happy life." Little Tong, snuggled in Xiao Zhener's arms and comfortably twisted her little body. Suddenly, she remembered something. "Oh right, Tong still has to challenge someone later. Mother, which uncle do you think I should challenge? Xiao Zhener said with a smile. That's up to you to decide. Lin Tong's big black and white eyes rolled around as many thoughts flashed through her little brain. At the same time, Shi Tianhao had already announced the start of the second round of quarterfinals. The two participants were Chen Xingyu from Taishu Temple and Lei Jie from Lei Clan, who had obtained 3rd and 6th place respectively in the second stage of the Dharma Assembly. Inside the All Heavens Great Hall, Lin Feng revealed an interested expression when he saw this scene. This is the only duel that I can't predict before the duel officially starts. Chen Xingyu has a higher chance of winning, but Lei Jie isn't that bad either. Inside the Spreading Law Hall, the cultivators of the various forces were also in heated discussion. Lei Jie's strength was relatively more obvious. He had climbed the Starry Sky Pagoda alone, then killed Qiongqi in the Lesser World, and defeated the Heavenly Sword Sect's swordsman Kong Hai with an overwhelming advantage. On the other hand, Chen Xingyu didn't seem to be particularly outstanding. Along the way, there was nothing particularly outstanding about him. But when they carefully thought about Chen Xingyu's path of advancement, they felt that it was extremely frightening to think about it. In the first stage, his group, Su Yunqing's group, and Ying Rose's group had left the other groups far behind. They were the first to reach the top of the pagoda. If it wasn't for the fact that his group members had an accident and accidentally touched the starlight restriction, it was still a mystery which group would have obtained first place in the first stage. In the second stage, he didn't have any conflicts with anyone. He simply hunted Qiongqi and collected 10 golden rings. He fought his way into the top 3, just behind Su Yunqing and Dao Yuding. He didn't let Xianmen Tianzong have the upper hand. In a sense, Chen Xingyu's performance in the second stage was the most outstanding. The Dharma Assembly allowed cultivators to compete for the golden rings, which made the results more random. Kong Hai's experience was the most illustrative. In a short period of time, the number of golden rings he had went from 3 to 10, and then quickly dropped to 5. The ups and downs were more exciting than a roller coaster. Zhou Yunsong was the last group to enter the pocket dimension, and he passed the test in 5th place. The key was that he had obtained both Li Xingfei and Yang Likuan's golden rings at the same time. He had originally only had 1 golden ring, but now he had 8, which helped him make up for the time he had wasted in the first stage. There was no need to mention Chuyang. He had obtained 9 golden rings at once, and in addition to the one he had hidden at the beginning, he had immediately made up the number. And Chen Xingyu was the only one in the top 8 who hadn't snatched anyone's golden ring, nor had anyone snatched it from him. He had used the most primitive and original method of obtaining golden rings, which was to hunt Qiongqi to complete the task. His advancement was the least random, and on this basis, he had obtained 3rd place. From a certain point of view, he was very valuable. But it was also because he had never fought with anyone, and when he hunted Qiongqi, he had only found lone Qiongqi and hadn't displayed much of his strength. That was why his true strength was a mystery. Everyone was curious about the level of this disciple of Taishu Temple. Lei Jie, the young master of the Lei family, who was also known as the Young Heaven's Favored One, was believed to be able to make Chen Xingyu reveal his true strength. Dressed in white, the extraordinarily handsome Chen Xingyu looked at Lei Jie silently. He smiled and cupped his hands. "Brother Lei, please." He was 3rd in the second stage, so he had the right to choose the battlefield's environment. But Chen Xingyu didn't make any special requests. He just wanted to fight Lei Jie in an ordinary battlefield, which showed his extraordinary bearing and confidence. Lei Jie didn't stand on ceremony. He put his palms together and green lightning emerged from his body. They turned into an overwhelming lightning snake that fell toward Chen Xingyu's head. 2 streams of air, one black and one white, rushed out from Chen Xingyu's body. They intertwined and turned into a whirlpool that spun continuously, producing a great suction force that sucked in the green lightning. Lei Jie raised his eyebrows and changed his hand seals. The green lightning that was sucked in by the black and white whirlpool quickly gathered. Instead of being disintegrated by the whirlpool, it turned into a huge ball of lightning. The ball of lightning didn't crackle with electricity. Instead, it was like a ball of green gas that kept vibrating. The next moment, The green ball of lightning exploded and shattered the black and white whirlpool. Inside the All-Heaven Hall, Tao Master Lei Yun's expression was calm. He nodded. The chaotic whole immortal slaying thunder. It is indeed the great chaotic interior true thunder scripture of the Grand Emperor's bloodline. It was said that when the Grand Emperor ruled the divine land, he was so majestic that even Essen Soul Almighties had to come and pay homage. Anyone who disobeyed would be killed with green lightning. Lin Feng smiled. When he first saw the Grand Emperor Palace in the cloudy forest world, the Grand Emperor Palace had released the chaotic whole immortal slaying thunder to face its enemies. Lei Jie's cultivation was only in the Golden Elixir period, so he naturally couldn't compare to the Grand Emperor Palace's power. However, the thunder technique he cultivated was indeed from the Grand Emperor's lineage. The chaotic whole immortal slaying thunder had just revealed its extraordinary power. Even when facing the Taishu Temple's lineage, Chun Xingyu, it didn't seem to be at a disadvantage. Chun Xingyu looked at the chaotic whole immortal slaying thunder and smiled. He pointed with his index finger, and black and white auras appeared one after another, turning into black and white whirlpools. Lei Jie also released one green mass after another, which collided with the black and white whirlpools. Chun Xingyu suddenly waved his hand, and the black and white whirlpools in front of him shattered abruptly, merging into two majestic air currents that were like two raging dragons. They shattered Lei Jie's chaotic whole immortal slaying thunder one by one, and then blasted toward Lei Jie himself. Lei Jie's body was covered in green lightning, as if a thunder god had descended to the world. Bolts of lightning were released, turning his surroundings into a lightning hell, blocking the black and white auras outside. Both of them were in the Golden Elixir period, so in a one-on-one battle, the Greater Law Hall wouldn't suppress their realms, allowing both of them to unleash their full strength. Their strength also dazzled the other cultivators in the Greater Law Hall. Both of them were only testing their strength, but they had already displayed impressive strength. Even the Yuanying cultivators had to treat them seriously. As the battle reached its climax, Lei Jie let out a thunderous roar, and his entire body shone brightly. 9 majestic air currents continuously revolved around his body, and his aura rose. The 9 air currents wrapped in rolling lightning intertwined in midair, condensing and manifesting, gradually condensing into a huge human figure, as if a thunder god had descended to the world. This human figure wasn't an illusion, but a true manifestation of magic power, condensed into a solid body, somewhat similar to the heaven and earth aspect condensed by late Yuanying cultivators. Seeing this scene, even the nascent divinity experts in the All-Heaven Great Hall were slightly moved. Emperor Qin Shiryu nodded. The 9-Qi True Thunder Body is indeed extraordinary. Late Yuanying cultivators had a huge leap in strength compared to middle Yuanying cultivators, and the key was that the heaven and earth aspect condensed the essence of the Tao. Right now, Lei Jie was only in the Golden Elixir period, but he already had such a technique. Although it was still different from the heaven and earth aspect, it was undoubtedly a qualitative change in his combat strength. In the battle, Chun Xingyu's expression did not change, and the yin and yang qi around him formed an unprecedented huge vortex. More and more yin and yang magic power merged into it, and gradually, the world seemed to be separated, turning into 2 parts, one above and one below, sandwiching Lei Jie and the huge human figure that he had manifested in the middle. The 2 discs rotated in the opposite direction, like a huge millstone, wanting to grind everything in the middle into powder. With yin and yang as the pushing force, and with the world as the millstone, it crushed everything. Taishu Temple's void yin-yang Dao's top magic power, yin-yang grind, heaven and earth grind. Those who recognized this Dharma spell immediately could not sit still. This Dharma spell was far more powerful than ordinary magic powers, and should not have appeared in the Golden Elixir period. 3 years ago in West Hill City, the Taishu Temple's direct disciple Bai Shiqian had used this move, and it had shocked everyone. Unfortunately, in the end, she was still defeated by Xianmen Tianzong Yu Hongyan. However, that was not because the yin-yang grind, heaven and earth grind was weak, but because Bai Shiqian's combat talent was much weaker than Yu Hongyan's. Even Xianmen Tianzong and the others would not underestimate this powerful Dharma spell. They're both in the Golden Elixir period. This Chen Xingyu's Dharma spell is much stronger than Bai Shiqian's. As the person with the most right to speak, Yu Hongyan stared at Chen Xingyu for a moment, then said slowly, when Bai Shiqian uses this Dharma spell, it's like a child playing with 1,000 caddy sledgehammer. But when he uses it, he has already grasped the essence of it. It's as if he can control it with ease. Beside her, Xiaoyan Zhuyi and the others nodded. Xiaoyan smiled. The other sects have indeed sent out their best disciples for this year's Dharma assembly. Although Lei Jie had also sensed Chen Xingyu's strength, his fighting spirit did not diminish. The giant lightning god above his head let out a deafening roar as it faced the yin-yang grind. Heaven and earth grind head-on. For a moment, both sides were locked in a stalemate. The spectators sighed in admiration that Lei Jie was also extraordinary. He was fighting against the direct disciple of the Taishu Temple, and was not at a disadvantage at all. But at this moment, Lei Jie's gaze suddenly trembled. A look of anger flashed across his usually calm and proud face. No. Impossible. I'm the one who succeeded. Chapter 693. Lei Jie took a deep breath as if he had made some sort of decision. The statue of the giant lightning god above his head suddenly disintegrated. No one had expected this. The smile on Lei Lai's face disappeared, and the light in his eyes intensified as he stared at Lei Jie. Chen Xingyu, who was fighting Lei Jie, did not take advantage of the situation to kill him. Instead, he retracted his yin-yang crushing world grinder and looked calmly at Lei Jie. Lei Jie's expression had completely returned to its cold and calm state. He said lightly, I forfeit this round. Great Law Hall was in an uproar, and the Lei family disciples were even more shocked. They did not understand why Lei Jie would suddenly forfeit. Many of the Yuanying ancestors of the Lei family also looked at Lei Jie in astonishment. They knew very well that Lei Jie, who possessed the 9-Qi True Thunder Body, was still holding back even now. Of course, Chen Xingyu's strength might not be at its limit, but the two sides were still evenly matched. If the fight continued, Lei Jie still had a chance. Not to mention his final ranking in Xianmen Tianzong's assembly, just defeating a core disciple of Taishu Temple would be enough to make Lei Jie's name spread far and wide. He would thoroughly secure the title of a young heaven's chosen, and become one of the best of the younger generation in the divine land. Lei Lai, the patriarch, knew that deep in his heart, his proud descendant had always been unconvinced that the dual-pupiled Shi Tianyi had suppressed him. After Shi Tianyi had been defeated by Shi Tianhao, Lei Jie's goal had naturally shifted to Shi Tianhao. Lei Jie was participating in the Dharma assembly this time to aim for the last place. Based on Lei Lai's understanding of him, Lei Jie would not purposely seek defeat in order to gain the chance to challenge Shi Tianhao. That kind of fight, which was obviously a senior giving pointers to a junior, was not something the proud Lei Jie would accept. He wanted to first subdue the second-generation disciples of Xianmen Tianzong, and then challenge Shi Tianhao openly. Therefore, even if he were to forfeit his battle with Chen Xingyu, he would never use his right to challenge Shi Tianhao or Shi Tianhao's fellow disciples. It was because of his deep understanding of Lei Jie that Lei Lai was especially shocked. He didn't know why Lei Jie would suddenly forfeit. Lei Jie's face was as calm as still water. He was well aware of his family's restlessness. If he gave up, it would be meaningless for him to participate in the spell assembly. Most people would only think that he was afraid to fight. He did not have the confidence or even the courage to fight against Chen Xingyu of the Taishu Temple. Not only would it not increase his reputation, but it would also damage Lei Jie's previous reputation. Lei Jie was well aware of the consequences, but after a brief moment of consideration, he finally decided to forfeit. Stopping or even retreating now is for the sake of moving forward. Lei Jie did his best to calm himself down. This time, we must completely solve this problem. I'm a success. In the central hall of Cloud Peak, a group of foundation disciples of Xianmen Tianzong sat together to watch the process of the spell assembly. When someone saw Lei Jie forfeit, he couldn't help but purse his lips. What's going on? He clearly doesn't look like he's going to lose. Maybe he knows in his heart that he's not a match for him, so he doesn't want to lose too badly. What do you think, Tang Jun? Suddenly, someone asked a young man beside him, "You're at the foundation establishment stage, so your cultivation is higher than ours. You should be able to see more, right?" The young man called Tang Jun's eyes were like lightning as he stared closely at Lei Jie in the illusion of light and shadow. He said lightly, "I don't know either." The person beside him muttered softly, "But you really look like him. If it wasn't for the fact that one of you has the surname Lei and the other has the surname Tang, I would have thought you were brothers." Tang Jun's hand suddenly clenched into a fist, then slowly loosened. He laughed but didn't say anything. Within the All Heavens Hall, the head of the Lei family Lei Lai seemed to have calmed down, smiling towards Lin Daohan and Yan Mingyue. "Your sect's great disciples are dragons among dragons. My grandson has shown his incompetence." The Marquis of Xuanji Zhu Hongwu, who had been very quiet since the beginning of the spell assembly, suddenly sent him a sound transmission. "Now it looks like your grandson won't do. We still have to see what the situation is like with the other one." Lei Lai's gaze moved, replying as if nothing had happened, "Marquis of Xuanji, don't be impatient. I'll ask Lei Jie later, and we'll know the exact situation." The primordial spirit big shots of the other powers all congratulated Lin Daohan. "Fellow Lin has a successor, congratulations." Lin Feng also looked at him and said with a smile, "A great teacher produces a great disciple. The ancients did not deceive me. I can't compare to the master of the Xian Gate and his great disciple." Lin Daohan bowed slightly, his tone calm. "My disciple still has many areas that he needs to train in. After entering your sect's Xiantian realm, if he offends you in any way, please forgive him. Chen Xingyu has already entered the top 4. At the very least he can obtain the right to freely enter and exit the Xiantian realm. Of course, this freedom of entry and exit must be established under conscious conditions. If he enters and loots all kinds of rare treasures, or excavates some precious mineral vein in one go, then Xianmen Tianzong will definitely not allow him to enter and not leave." Lin Feng smiled. "Perhaps in the end it will be a chance for your disciple to obtain the primordial starlight baptism." Yan Mingyue smiled slightly. Sect leader Lin is too polite. No matter what, I have to thank sect leader Lin for taking out such a generous reward. The power of the stars is so powerful that even a primordial spirit powerhouse can't easily control it. Even if there is a way to guide the starlight, it is extremely violent and can easily kill people. The Dharma spells of the Taishu Temple, the divine light of the gathering stars in the 9 heavens of Taishu scripture, is a similar Dharma spell. The more powerful Dharma spells like the 9 glory sky shattering formation are even more destructive. It is very difficult to guide the starlight to temper one's body. Since ancient times, only the demon powerhouses who have cultivated to the primordial true spirit realm can naturally guide the power of the stars to cultivate with the secret method of the demon race. It is extremely difficult for human cultivators. Only the desolate ancient star sea that is controlled by the demon race at the moment is endless and mysterious, guiding the endless starlight like a zone where human cultivators can also guide the starlight to temper their body. Lin Feng has control of the foreign dimension that is a projection of the desolate ancient star sea, so he can draw a small amount of primordial starlight to temper the body and soul of his disciples. However, the foreign dimension is only a projection of the desolate ancient star sea. It is created by Xia Huang's magical treasure of creation, Ding of Shenzhou. It is not a real realm passage that leads to the desolate ancient star sea, so the starlight that can be guided is still limited. At the same time, although the baptism of the primordial starlight is much gentler, there is still a certain requirement for the person who can bear the power of the stars. Only those who are outstanding can bear the power of the stars and go to the next level. Even under Xianmen Tianzong, only a portion of people can bear it. Even so, the starlight is very limited. Since Lin Feng is willing to take out this thing as a reward for the spell gathering, even people like Lin Daohan and Yan Mingyue from the Taishu Temple and Emperor Qin Shiryu from the Great Qin Dynasty expressed their approval. The thunderous swordsman sighed. Speaking of which, none of the 7 seas of heaven origin is completely controlled by us human cultivators. As soon as he said this, the big shots immediately nodded in agreement. The so-called 7 seas of heaven origin are the Star Sea, the Empty Sea, the Nether Sea, the Mysterious Sea, the Ying Sea, the Spirit Sea, and the Dead Sea. They are all outside of the Great Heaven Origin world, but they are different from the medium-class worlds. They are giant foreign dimensions that are even bigger than medium-class worlds. The Star Sea is the desolate ancient Star Sea. In the immemorial age, it was the paradise of the demon race. In the ancient age, it was occupied by the human race and became the residence of the human sovereign. In the last years of the ancient age, it was retaken by the demon race. Until now, it is still controlled by the demon race. The empty sea is actually the void battlefield. It is filled with space turbulence and void storms. The human race and the demon race often enter it to search for treasures. No one can say that it is controlled by the demon race. The Nether Sea is the Netherworld Underground Sea. According to folklore, it is the location of the Netherworld Underground Sea. It is filled with all kinds of ferocious disasters. The true water of the Netherworld and the true water of the Blood River of the true water of the Six Great True Water. The evil Hades, the mysterious heavenly tribulation flame, and the red lotus karmic fire of the Seven Great True Fires, and the 9 nether wind of the 4 great divine winds all originate from there. The Nether Sea is in a closed state. There is no complete realm passage connecting it to the divine land or infinite wilderness land. There are only occasional cracks, but they are fleeting, appearing and healing quickly. The true water of the Netherworld, the true water of the Blood River, the evil Hades, and other disasters leak out from the cracks at this time, poisoning the world. The Dark Sea is only connected to infinite wilderness land. It is not in contact with the divine land at all. It is now the habitat of the dragon race. The Ying Sea is connected to the divine land. It is located in the depths of the sea in the east of the Great Zhou dynasty. It is also known as the Phantom Sea. There are many strange phenomena and mysterious things there. There are many illusions. Compared to the void battlefield, it is not as violent, but more mysterious and unpredictable. It is also a place of great danger. There are many primordial spirit cultivators who are trapped there, and cannot come out again, let alone those below the primordial spirit stage. Many powerful beings in the divine land have tried to explore the Ying Sea. However, like the void battlefield, they have some gains, but they are far from completely controlling it. Logically speaking, just like how the Mystic Ocean was to Tianhuang mainland and the Ying Ocean was to the divine continent, the cultivation world of the human race should be considered their own backyard. However, the awkward thing was that there was a realm passageway on the eastern sea of the divine continent that was connected to the Tianhuang mainland. Thus, the demon race did not need to spend too much effort to go to the Ying Ocean. For the passage to the Ying Sea, the two races have often fought. The Great Zhou dynasty has many cultivators stationed at the sea to guard the realm passage to infinite wilderness land, to prevent the demon race from entering. The Spirit Sea and Dead Sea are relatively mysterious, and they are even harder to find than the Netherworld Sea. Celestial Sword Sovereign suddenly said. Speaking of which, it seems that it is almost time for the Ying Sea's 3 mountains to appear. It is said that by controlling the 3 mountains, one can truly control the entire Ying Sea. I wonder if this is true? Hearing this, both Emperor Qin Shiyu and Great Zhou's Marquis Xuanji, Zhu Hongwu frowned. Songhai Sword Sect's Sword Sovereign Emerald Wave was expressionless, and looked towards Celestial Sword Sovereign. Celestial Sword Sovereign only smiled slightly, and did not say anything. Yin Mingyue had a faint smile on her face, while Lin Daohan sighed softly. Lin Feng looked at this scene with interest and laughed in his heart. Ying Sea's 3 mountains interesting. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.